tips to make sure that you stay? Yes, probably true. We're then going to finish off with compiling some of this into selling rules of engagement. And along the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you excerpts from films. There's 19 of them in total. I had hoped that there was around 20, but I lost count. And as those scripts come up, or those film clips come up, what I'd like you to do is write down the name of the actor and what you think their primary dispositional characteristics are. And by the time that we finish talking through DISC, you'll have some idea. And I just want to see if that the little that we're training can help you identify what kind of person is this. And then when I get through to rounding up the selling rules of engagement, I'll let you know what those different actors and actresses actually are. Okay, and then we're going to finish off with just a little summary of what did we learn. And it's a long day with frequent stretches, so let's hit it. Okay, so the first thing that we have to understand in sales is that it's all about engaging with people. Irrespective of the business that you're in, this is about engaging with people. And we have to remember that behind every prospect and every client is a people wanting to be engaged with dignity, with substance, and with authenticity. And that remains true, okay, irrespective of the business you're in. So you have to get good at people. And there's this golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. And that's true to an extent, but it's also not truth. So the thing is that we in sales need to be operating according to the platinum rule. All right, the next one up. And the platinum rule says this: treat others the way they want to be treated. Which means that if we want to be good at sales, we have to learn and invest in understanding how does the other tick? What does the other want to hear? How do I engage in a way that works for them, not necessarily for me? And the thing that we have to keep in mind is the statistic is this: only 16% of the population is going to be like me, which means the majority of the population is going to be unlike me, which means that in order for me to engage with them well as a person, I'm going to have to be not me. I'm going to have to learn a different way of engaging. All right. And that's why sales can feel uncomfortable and difficult, where you can feel that your fur's been rubbed up the wrong way and that you are out of your comfort zone, because you are having to communicate and engage in ways that are not necessarily how you would engage. And that's okay, because the good news is this stuff can be learned and it gets better with practice. So the question here is, how can you treat others the way they want to be treated? And the answer is you need to understand them a bit more. You need to learn about them. Okay, you need to learn to appreciate them. So let's have a look. Dan Pink, wonderful man. If you want to have a look at some YouTube stuff, you want to read some stuff about him, Dan Pink is awesome. And his definition of selling is what most professional people's definition of selling is. It's professionally helping others to buy. And the emphasis there is on professional and on helping. The old days of being an order taker, that pleasant person on the phone receiving calls that come in, is suicide in economic winter. Because people are not necessarily ready and waiting for you to interact with. You cannot be a customer service person in the sales department these days. You have to be more than that. We've then got the product pusher, that person who thinks that just by giving information and by giving all the details and giving the brochure, that is enough to ask people to say yes. It's not enough. Machine gunning people with the facts, learning about the product is not enough to sell. Selling is a dance, a nuanced dance of emotional connection, which uses to an extent knowledge about the product, but can actually occur without good intel on a product, although I'm not recommending that. At the end of the day, that sales dance is about understanding the problem that you are solving and the pain that you are relieving. When it comes to sales, we cannot be the overseller. That smart person that's just full of scripts and quips, all right, but doesn't engage in actually solving the problem and understanding and listening to what the prospect or the client is saying. At the end of the day, the problem solver is all about doing that. And the question that I want you to hold in mind is, when have you had an experience of these different kinds of salespeople, and how did that make you feel? And most of you who have come via the groups or are in the groups, you will have an opportunity over the course of your training to engage with your competition and with mystery shopping, and to feel what it feels like to be on the receiving end of each of these different kinds of salespeople. But at the end of the day, to come back to the point that I made, is you have to think of sales like you would dating. If it won't work in dating, and I mean this in all sincerity, people laugh when I say it, but it's absolutely true. If it won't work in dating, it is particularly not going to work in sales, right? And so now pick up your pens and write this down, because we have to have a simple yes or no when it comes to how well is selling going. And for those of you on the call who don't see yourselves in a coalface situation on sales, remember that if you're in customer service, that is selling. If you are dealing with clients, that is selling. It's about client retention. It's about upselling what you do. It's about delivering as promised. And all of that is going to cause the client's customers to stay. And there's an element of sales. If you are married, there's an element of sales. If you are a parent, there's an element of sales. Persuading people and helping them to come round to your idea of buying a solution, a product, a service. So here are the yes or no questions that I'd like you to mentally rate yourself on. Are you clear, number one, what you are selling? What is it that you sell? And the so what of what it is that you sell. You can't just have the what. So maybe you sell a massage, maybe you sell a flute lesson. What's the so what of a massage or a flute lesson that your target market will need? So what and what? Second question, do you have an easy to buy, visible grocery shelf of offerings? Have you packaged what it is that you sell in such a way that I can see it? Third one, do you have a target? If you don't have a target to aim for, you won't be able to sell well. Fourth one, do you have a compelling consequence or reward for when you hit this target to spur you on? I cannot estimate, and I cannot overstate what a full contact sport sales is. It is a grueling engagement, and you can come out of the thing beaten up and bent out of shape. And so to have something to reward yourself with, whether it's just a good cup of coffee, whether it's a commission, whether it's an opportunity to go on a holiday, having something to aim for is everything in sales. Everything. Doesn't have to be money. Next one. Do you have a process to follow to help you build know, like, and trust? No sales happen in one jump. If you think that you are going to jump from hello to getting into proverbial bed with your customer or prospect, you're dreaming. I've been working at sales for, the last 12 years, having started in my career as crap at sales. I now have an 80 or 90% conversion rate, but it has taken huge amounts of reading and practice. And I use our CRM. We can't do without it, because that's where we collect intel on people. All right. So do you have one? A CRM, client relationship management software, spreadsheet, somewhere that you can record progress on this process. All right. And if your business doesn't have one, talk to the business owner. If you don't have one as a business owner, shame on you. These are the basics of making sure that you have a good, healthy fuel line. Have you practiced your elevator pitch? When did you last practice it? On a live person, not in front of the mirror, on a live person. And the answer should be daily. Are you clear? Next point. Who will buy what it is that you're selling? And then are you clear how you will communicate this to them? And then finally, what will compel them to take action now? Very, very important. And in order to do this who, how, and compelling people, we come down to basic psychology and people skills. And we have to appreciate what I've already said, that sales never pivots on information alone. Product pushing brochures, 80% of it is an emotional decision. Where I am persuaded, I need this. And as I said, I've seen very successful sales made by people who've got little to no understanding of the technicalities or details of the product. And when we look at understanding psychology, DISC is helpful, because what DISC does is it takes us below the behavior, the actions, and the decisions, down to some of the stuff that's sitting here, and it tells us what's going on underneath the skin. Who are we talking to? And therefore, what language do we have to speak? So let's have a look at DISC. Those of you who did it, and hopefully everybody who is on the call now has done a DISC profile. And if your owner, if you're a team member and your owner hasn't shared the results with you, they need to do that, because it's enormously useful. Because it's never a measure of your ability. It's everything to do with your preferences. It's simple and practical, and it's about observable behavior and emotions, right? Stuff that we can see, stuff that you can modify, right? It's not a measure of your ability or your education. Not at all. This is not about you can do something and you can't do something. It's simply that you prefer to do it this way. And that's important to know. All right. There are 4 variables that you were measured on, right? And they represent different things. Those who are high Ds love problems and challenges and see them as opportunities. Then there are the people who work in and through others and have a unique ability to do that. Then there are the status quo, reliable customer service people who are very keen on pace and consistency. And then there's the conscientious high Cs who are about procedures and constraints and questions and intel. And those 4 core styles amalgamate together in each individual, all right? And we have a blend. It's about understanding what that primary blend looks like. And it's understanding that our styles are influenced by how we are with each other. And we're not immune to how we ought to behave or what we need to do to get stuff done. So I may be a retiring little shy violet by nature, but if you touch my kid, I will turn into a tiger of note, but I won't sustain that behavior. And many of us go into a work environment or a more public environment adapting how we ordinarily are behind the scenes. And while that's possible, it takes psychological energy. And if we can understand who we are talking to with greater nuanced elegance, it just takes less out of us. And we can learn and adapt. That's the beautiful thing about us as human beings. So I'm over this whole thing of saying, oh, well, I'm a high I, so I don't know how to shut up. Or I'm a high C, so I don't greet and like people. We can learn, okay? And we can take responses and we can learn. And that's what we're going to do here today, okay? We're going to learn about each other. So today's objectives: recognizing different characteristic traits as a start of the investment into you taking this further. Identifying with your behavioral style and then seeing how that differs from others. And then considering how this could impact and optimize a selling situation. And along the way, we've got some nice summaries here, all right? But what we have to understand is that observable behavior is driven by stuff, as that identity iceberg was showing, by stuff that's underneath. Now, we don't need to become specifically good at knowing what that stuff is, but it's good to understand what the broad brushstrokes are. So part of what you're going to get as a takeaway from here today is summary spreadsheets like this one, which looks at the different profiles in their undiluted form and says, what is the primary driver going on here? What will you see in terms of observable behavior? And what are some of the under the skin fears that you can use, and not in a manipulative way, but in an authentic way, in a connecting way, in a compassionate way when you engage with people? So high Ds fear being taken advantage of, interestingly, because they're strong dispositions. And when they're out of control, they turn into sergeant majors, not because they've got no manners, but simply because that's how they get back the ant on top of the cork. High I's, on the other hand, don't FOMO. Loss of social approval. They're terribly affected and impacted by what people think of them. S's hate sudden anything, sudden changes, knee jerks. They don't like to be pushed. So D's like to have information. S's like to be engaged with and given time. I's like to be entertained, asked for their opinion. C's like the accuracy and the quality. So if we know this about people, we can present them with the stuff that they need. Agreed. Sandy, cue interested faces. Yes?
Interested face.
Interested face. Fantastic. Okay, so when we look at it, I often have this with people. They say, oh, well, you know, I communicated to the team. I communicated to the boss. I told the client this. It's not my fault that they didn't listen. The thing that we have to understand is that true communication is not what you did. It's the response that you get. And this is building on some of the stuff that we did at Growth Club with the business owners, those of you who are on the call, and your business owners, for those of you who are team members on this call. We talked about extreme ownership in times of winter and what that means if you want to go to war for victory in your business. And the thing is that we have to take ownership of our communication, because if we don't get the response that we're after, then we need to change how we're communicating. So if we're unable to close or engage people, we have to say, right, what can I do differently to make sure that this changes? And if every party takes ownership for it, we're going to have the meeting of the minds. Remember that we're all about treating others the way they want to be treated, because that's optimally sensible when it comes to persuading people. So let's just quickly run through the different dispositional types. Let's run through them in their unadulterated, undiluted format. And most of you have seen these slides before. And if you have, then here they come again, so that we can just brush up on our knowledge. For those of you who are seeing the slides for the first time, you might want to use your phone to just take some photographs of these snapshots so that we can get a broad-based pop understanding of these different dispositions, so that when we get out into the marketplace, we have a better chance of recognizing who is sitting in front of us. And not that I think that people are dogs, but I think that this is a wonderful way to just link our memories to which person am I dealing with. So the first one up is the high D. And D is about task orientation, right? Big picture task orientation. So people who are high Ds tend to be driving, results-oriented, determined, self-reliant doers, right? They're all about actions speak louder than words. They're incredibly decisive and analytical and catch on very, very quickly. And because of that, because they're big dispositions, they've got confidence, they tend to be smart and alert, not that others are not, but it's smart in a way that causes them to rise to the top, take leadership roles. Think of someone like a surgeon in an operating theater or a riot control policeman, all right? So they're not throwing their weight around because they've got an agenda or they're trying to prove something. It's just simply that they like to take charge and they're good at it, right? Very good at it. They're good at leading, and they can be demanding as well as dynamic. They can be forceful, but in a good way. And they are competitive, not with other people, but with themselves. They're big picture people, risk takers, direct, objective, and strong. They often come across as brutally frank, and they a spade a spade. Now, that is enormously useful in business, all right? And without it, we are the poorer for it. So, what do high Ds look to do in an environment? They see the place that they operate in, their sphere of influence, as one in which challenges can be overcome. They're about changing and fixing or controlling, not controlling in a horrible way, but controlling as in getting things bedded down and organized. They want to be able to see the big picture and the long term. So engaging with them is about being brief, being bright, being prepared, and being unafraid. Okay, confidence sells, brevity sells, Boldness sells. Directness sells. I dealt with somebody who was about as high D as you could get. She was Danish. I think most of the Danes are high D, and some of you have heard this story before. And if you said to Suzanne, do I look good in red? And you didn't, she'd go, no. Just that. No, you don't. Am I fat? Am I looking fat? Yes, you've put on weight. You're looking fat. I can remember thinking the first time I engaged with her, geez, you are so rude. But I came to really value because she tells the truth. And it takes courage to tell people what they don't want to hear. But it's an art to doing it in such a way that it's well timed and that it has the desired response that we're after. Many people who lead organizations, lead departments, have got an element of high D or adapted high D at work. So make sure that when you do a sales pitch to someone who's a Rottweiler, you start with the big picture and you only go into the detail if need be. Don't start with the detail. It will annoy them horribly. And when Rottweilers get annoyed, they growl. And if you don't listen, they'll bite. Let's have a look at the high I's. So the high D's are starters and they're internally referent. And what that means is that they're not impacted by what others think of them. They're not impacted by what's going on the outside because they have a sense of self. They can be unemotional. High I's, on the other hand, are most absolutely affected by what's going on in the environment that they find themselves in. They take on board what is happening around themselves. They've got thin skins. Now, that's enormously helpful because it makes them very socially astute, very able to see vibes, what's not being said. They can be inspirational, influential, engaging. All right? They're your typical extroverts, warm, personable. They stand on a stage. They've got wonderful presence. They're usually well coordinated in how they dress, and they love aesthetics. They're about sensing, whereas the high Ds are about judging. This is about sensing and engaging. So they say things like feel the vibe, go with the flow, which irritates high Ds second to none because they go, well, where are the facts and what's the result going to be? High Ds are about discipline and routine and getting the job done, grit. High I's about, what's the word that I'm looking for? Organic, feeling, sensing, and putting things together. Dreaming, visualizing, right? So they are wonderful people to present stuff, to engage face up, because they see and they hear people amazingly well. Just like the high Ds have their downside and can be blunt and too impatient and too fast and leave everyone behind or bruised, high I's can be caustic with their tongues because they know where to hurt. So they tend to be very verbally able, very able to come with a response. They can use humor and they can change in ways that other dispositions can't. So they can respond well, react well, and land on their feet. But if you cross them, their tongues can be sharp and mean. The high I's, because they have the ability to know where people hurt most, they can see people's vulnerabilities. They know where to dig in the knife. So be careful, those of you who are high I's. Without necessarily intending it, you can come across as mean as a snake. High D's can bludgeon, high I's can knife. So be careful with that. But recognize that the upside is there's a sociability and a fluency and an optimism there, which is enormously engaging and attractive when used well. And theirs is about influence and status and persuasion. They love the sound of their own voice, so let them talk. They love fun, so take them out to lunch. Offer to meet them for coffee. Engage with them and ask them good questions so that they can hear the sound of their own voice. Okay. Whereas high D's cut to the chase, high I's go the long way round, the scenic route. Neither is right or wrong. It just is what it is. Understand the language.
Kathi,
yes?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You're on a roll, but it's what you're saying is highly intriguing. How does a high D engage a high I?
We're going to get to that.
Most effectively. Are we still on the route there?
Oh, yes. But in order to do that,
Wonderful.
we've got to get everyone up onto stage to just say, what
Okay.
are these different dispositions before we get into how we interact with them? So all we're doing right now is we're saying, who is who in the zoo?
All right. All right.
So-
Okay. So you're laying the platform for.
Laying
Okay.
the platform.
Understood.
Laying the platform.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next one. So next one is your high S, also the people person, but the gentler people person, right? So whereas the high I is the politician or the marketer, all right, where they engage with a reason and they're astute with it and can move people. Your high S is more supportive. Think nurse or school teacher. There's a vocational element, a customer service side to what they do. And when I say sentimental, I don't mean in a horrible way. I mean with a real sense of ceremony and things like school reunions. They tend to be specialists and all about status quo. So when you're looking for rhythms in a business, when you're looking for realities that are repeated, routines, doing things over and over again, which is what the hallmark of most business is, the routine deliverables, all right? High S, absolutely well placed, all right? So we're looking here at people who are supportive, patient, consistent. They are peacekeepers. These people like time. They like authenticity. They don't like lots of wood. They're watchers. They see things, but they don't often speak up because they're peacekeepers and they don't want to upset people. They keep steady and calm, and they're about cooperative, supportive, agreeable. They are persuaded by things like, what are other people doing? How will this benefit the people I care about? They are principled in ways that the others are not. So it matters to them that this is right, this is kind, this is thoughtful. They need time to think through something and they want to know, will it work? Really, will it work? They're all about authenticity. If you're going to give them a compliment, make sure it's genuine. Make sure it's well thought through. And don't be overly verbose. Don't come at them, because what they'll do is they'll often sit back physically or shield themselves off. So they like to be approached slowly. High I's and high D's are all about starting and energy and coming out of the gates. High I's step back. They're backroom, don't like to be in the limelight. So approach slowly, steadily, with authenticity, over time with a process. And then lastly, we've got the high C's. And when we say cautious, I don't mean as in they are shy and coming forward. They count the costs, they measure, they find the facts, they're analytical. They tend to be very courteous, focused, and precise. These are the questioners with high standards, very exacting. It's about compliance, the right way of doing things, the wrong ways of doing things, the processes that we follow, the detail. They will go down through your sales documentation and point out that on page 42 you have a typing error. They'll notice things like the fonts are not the same, and they will notice things if things aren't laid out properly. They will hold you to the guarantees, and they will phone your references. They'll ask around and get prices, and they may sound like that they're raining on your parade when they are negative, but that is just simply a high C person showing interest. All right? They tend to look at all the facts, not just the ones that they like. High I's are all about the ones that they like, and they tend to ignore the rest. High S's tend to receive whatever it is that you give, and if it's not what they want, they may just necessarily move away to the sideline. High I's will come back at you and they'll pepper you with questions. They want the detail, they want the link, they want to hear what others have to say. Right? And they like to bring order, they like to work within the rules, they like to follow a process. They like accuracy and efficiency. They are task-oriented, but in the narrow sense, the fine brushstrokes, all the detail. So when you go and see a high C person, you need to be prepared. You need to have the stuff there for them to ask you and put it out if they need it. Make sure that you can answer their questions. And if you can't, tell them that you'll get back to them. And you can recognize a high C because they ask questions, they deal in information, they do detail. You can recognize a high S because they tend to be quiet and they usually got pictures of their family, or they'll reference their family or people that they care about, or you'll feel a warmth coming off them like you would your favorite school teacher. High I's, as I say, are well-dressed and colorful. They tend to dominate a room in a social way. And high D's, you can feel their presence when they come in, almost like a Rottweiler on the dog park. You can just feel the strength of character, even if they don't necessarily say something. And chances are, if they're at the top of the organization, they've got D coming through. If they ask a lot of questions, chances are high C is coming through. If they sit back and watch and you notice things around in the office, tread carefully and slowly. Recognize that high Ds can be pushed to make a decision literally there and then, and can be programmed to make a decision there and then because they are decisive and they decide quickly. High I's can often be wooed over lunch and asked to make a decision. And if you can tell them what's going to result for them personally, it'll set them up for success with the board. It'll help them get their job done. It'll give them the security and the confidence they need to go into the boardroom. They can be pushed to make a decision. High S's, never push them to make a decision. Don't use that sales close on high S's because they don't like it. They feel forced. They feel their fur brushed up the wrong way, and it doesn't help them. They need to sleep on it, and they need to ask people they care about, and they need to phone your references. So offer that up in the sales situation with a high S. High C's may need time as well, so give them some time. Give them the parameters up front. Suggest that they do their due diligence. Give them the stuff that they can look through and then encourage them to phone you and set a time to go through any questions they may have because they like it. So those are some broad brushstrokes that I can share with you about the different dispositions for now. And we're going to use that as a basis. So hopefully you took some photographs. Okay. And Anne Hathaway. So we come to our first breakaway group. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be spending 25 minutes, you guys going into a group, and we're going to be focusing on building rapport. And so the scenario that we want you to engage with, and it's going to require all of you to give a brief input, but we would like you to come away from that group to say, if I am your new bank manager, what would you like? What do I need to do and say to get you to know, like, and trust me? What do I need to do and say? How would you prefer to engage with me? Telephonically, in person? Is there a process I need to follow with you? And over what time frame? Right? So what do I need to do and say to get you to know, like, and trust me? I'm now your new bank manager. We've got a phone call to say that I'm on board. So Sandy's going to pop you into groups. You've got 25 minutes to compile a group response, appoint a spokesman, and be ready to give us some feedback on information. And then we're going to take some feedback from each of the different groups. How do we create rapport? Okay, over to you, Sandy. Let's unscreen share for the moment so I can see all of your faces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on each group, and I'm going to remind you who was in it so that you remember. And then I want you to just get the spokesman, wave your hand, and Sandy will unmute you. And then for the sake of us all, please be brief, and please allow me to shut you up if you go on too long. Not because we don't like the sound of your voice, but because we want to get to a certain point, and we need to pull out the nuggets. So the scenario was, I am your newly appointed bank manager. You don't have to persuade me. I'm not selling to you. I am appointed. Okay. And I am now wanting to encourage and build relationship with you as your new bank manager. You get a thing. Kathi Clark is now your new bank manager. She will be in touch with you. So I want to hear from the different groups, how do I build rapport with you? So we're going to start with group number 1. So that was Heidi and Mark. So who was the spokesman from
Heidi
your
is our spokesperson.
Heidi, fantastic. So
sorry, not Heidi.
Leila.
I'm
your person, and I say
okay, so everyone else mute. Sandy and Leila, let's hear from you. How do we establish How do I establish relationship with you?
We'll just spotlight Layla.
Sorry, Heidi.
Oh, hang on. We're just swapping.
No,
Sorry.
Sorry, Sandy, could you just unmute Emma? Sorry, we've got different computers.
Okay.
Our things have swapped around. Sorry.
Okay.
Here you are.
Okay, so Leila, you've just wasted 6 of your minutes, so go for it. How do we establish relationship, you and I? I'm your new bank manager.
A face-to-face initial meeting. We decided that we'd like a face-to-face initial meeting because we'd like to see that we trust the bank manager. And after that face-to-face, we want email communication, but we'd like quite clear facts. We don't want to be overloaded with a lot of detail. We would like to be sure that the bank manager is going to be as quick as possible and efficient in his process. We want to all believe in the fact that he has good knowledge.
Okay, let me stop you there. So it's about face-to-face, bold, clear facts, be efficient. I don't want any other relationship with you. You're my bloody bank manager, for crying out loud. Just show up and be efficient. That's it. I will love you forever. Excellent. Next one. I want to go to the CD group. That's Marguerite, Sasha. Who's your spokesperson? Wave your hand.
Just
Marguerite's group.
unmute yourself. Who's the person?
Come, guys.
It's Jason for our group.
Jason.
Okay, let me find Jason.
Now.
Jason, unmute.
And my apologies, my apologies. My fiber is a little up and down. There you go.
Okay. So Jason, be brief now.
Okay,
I can see you. Be brief and to the point. How do I build rapport with you? I'm your new bank manager.
As a group, we were more concerned about efficiency and functionality than actually embracing, sitting down with someone. Ultimately, where you're planning to go, how can you help you get there? But all systems need to be efficient and functional.
Okay, so it will irritate the hell out of you if I didn't do as I promised, if I didn't show up when I said, and if I didn't just be the machine.
Yeah, more so, if the functionality is inefficient.
That's right.
We just felt that the essence of our conversation was functionality.
Absolutely. I am using you as a bank manager. You are a resource to me. So this is a high C commentary. This is the C feel to it. You must be efficient and do as you promised and said you would. Function.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Let's go to the third group, which is also high C's, but without the D coming through. All right. So these are the pure high C's. So that's Andrew Vanner, who was the spokesman in your group, please. Thank you, Jason. And welcome back, your face.
Thank you.
Come, guys. Who was the spokesperson? Andrew Vanner, your group. Can someone speak up?
It was Megan.
There we go. I was trying to unmute. So
Megan.
I'm the spokesperson. The most important thing for us is that the bank manager must be able to answer all our questions. So we want to have personal face-to-face contact at first, because that's the quickest way to get our questions answered. And then we really want to be able to get in touch with that person whenever we want to afterwards. And they must know what they're talking about. They must be efficient. They must understand me, but mostly they must answer my questions.
Okay, brilliant. And they mustn't worry and waste time taking you out for lunch and all that crap, because that's
no.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Excellent. And can I ask that if you've been the spokesperson once, you stay the spokesperson so we can find you quickly. So let's go to group number 5. Kelly, Sian, Candace. Who was your spokesperson? Thank you, Megan.
That would be me. Hi.
Okay, so this is
we're
Dave.
also, yeah, so also self-proclaimed, all of us high C's, all of us very detail orientated. We want the facts. It doesn't have to be the details, but it has to be the facts to make our decisions. And something else that came quite clearly was all of us like to work, like to communicate remotely. None of us were that comfortable face-to-face, with one or two minor exceptions. And when bank managers push it on us, face-to-face meetings, that really puts us off.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing is that unlike the high Ds who want to sit down and eyeball you, high Cs go, I haven't got time for that. Just talk to me over the tech. Talk to me by computer, make it work efficiently. I don't need to see your face. I'm not interested in having a relationship with you. I don't really like people. Thank you. But I do like your service. Thank you. Okay, Dave, so another high C, nuance. Right, let's go to the group S's. That would be Alan and Viv, your group. Who was the spokesperson for you?
Unmute yourself.
Who is it? Just wave your hand so Sandy can find you. Natalie. Was it you?
Yes.
Okay, Natalie. So this is the S's and the C's. How will I build relationship with you?
Okay, we would obviously prefer the more interpersonal relationship. So for us, we would like a initial face-to-face. We would like our banker to know our profile. We would like him to be accessible to us and not only hear from him once a year. And we would obviously, for us, he would need to just understand our profiles, our spend, and be able to work long-term in all the offerings that he would be able to provide us in the long run.
Natalie, would you expect him to know things like your spouse's name and engage with you on who you are and what's going on more than just your business profile?
Possibly, yes. I think you'd need to have a good understanding, and you'd also need to know that if there was something that we would be interested in, to understand what our competitors are doing as well.
Okay, fair enough. But remember that at the end of the day, you're wanting to get some broad basis, but you're wanting relationship at the end of the day. This is not just about efficiency. It's about establishing relationship. He must know you.
Yes, correct.
He must just serve you. He must know you. So that means he's got to take his time. He's got to have phone calls. He's got to phone you not just for business, which to the high C's is an anathema. It's like, don't waste my time. Okay, so they were the high S's. Thank you, Natalie. Can we go to the high I's? That would Ashley, Janine Fisser. Who's your spokesperson? Wave so Sandy can unmute you.
Yeah, I am unmuted.
Okay, Claire, welcome. Now high I's talk a lot, so Claire, the clock he ticks.
Okay, so I want you to be fun and personal, but I want to know that you know your stuff and you can demonstrate that you can give me huge assurance that you understand my needs and my requirements, but don't be inappropriate and ask inappropriate things, be engaging, but don't pretend to listen. Don't pretend to be interested when you're not, because it can pick up very easily on people being inauthentic.
Okay, so Claire, let me just stop you there for a moment. So what you're saying is that I must be impressive. Must know my stuff and I must impress you. Okay, and I must also be in relationship with you, but not inauthentically. I mustn't waste your time.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So time is of the essence, but you want to be impressed. Okay. Anything else? Do I take you out for an annual lunch?
I don't know. Depends on our relationship. If it's appropriate.
Okay, what if I was doing good champagne and going to an award-winning restaurant?
That would probably be okay, but it depends on how you've built the relationship with me.
So the jury is out. So only if I've done good will you go out to lunch with me.
If you haven't, then you're going to waste my time. And why do I want to be spending time with people that don't really enjoy their time?
Okay. So the thing is you have to earn the right to have lunch with me. Aha. Okay. So high I's, you have to earn the right. You have to be impressive, good at what you do, astute in how you handle me. Otherwise, I'm going to dig my toes in and I will not relate to you and I will not allow you to relate with me. Okay.
And we tend to not give too many chances.
Yes. Yes, if you cock it up first time, second time, you get away with it, third time, your history, and I will black you out. Bye-bye. Excellent. So watch out. I's can be expedient and demanding. But it's where high standards come from. Thank you, Claire. Let's go to the high, also I's, but slightly different, nuanced I's. So that is Tatiana and Juanita. Wave, who is your spokesman, please? Spokesperson.
It was me, Kathi.
Hello, Rick. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks.
Right, let's hear from you lot. How would I schmooze myself as your new bank manager?
Okay, cool. I'll just run through some of the stuff we said very quickly. Okay, so none of us like talking on the phone. So we have the phone call only for you to set up a meeting in Face. And then please don't set up a meeting and expect us to arrive the same day. Give us a day or two just to prepare our minds and bodies for the whole thing. And then at the meeting, yeah, so be prepared and know a bit about us and the business when we get there. Be warm and make us feel comfortable. A cup of coffee and a little bit of chat about our personal life would go well before, not too long. And then, yeah, we want the information given to us on paper when we leave so that we can go home and make a decision about what you spoke about. Please don't be pushy and demand questions and answers immediately. Yeah, and also we still value efficiency, so don't repeat yourself all the time. So we'll have a nice chat, maybe spend half an hour to an hour there, but don't repeat yourself and be inefficient, obviously.
We'll spend an hour with the bank manager. All the high Ds just fell over. The high Is are going, you're a fork. That's a long time to spend with the bank manager. So Rick and his group represent the ICs, okay? And they're about time. Don't rush me. Don't push me. Give me the information. Give me the detail. Let me read it. Let me go away and percolate on what you said, okay? I need time. I don't want to be rushed. The high Ds just fell over going, you're a fork. Okay, right. So now we go to the last group, which is Kim and Bronwyn. Thank you, Rick, for that. Let's hear from you. How would I create rapport with you?
Okay, so we all said importance of relationship. So we want to have a relationship with a bank manager. We want them to know.
Bronwyn, how would I establish that with you? What does relationship mean for you?
Ask us about us and about our business. They need to remember that information. So the next time we see them, they can ask us about a sick child or about whatever happened in our business. So that's the kind of relationship we're wanting.
So you're wanting a personal relationship, and I've got to remember nuanced things. The name of your cat, the fact that you have one, your children. Absolutely.
But no silly questions. Don't ask stupid questions just to fill time. We want, so rapport is very important. We want them to be proactive, efficient, communicate with us, no fumbling and time wasters. So we want the information, we want it, we want to know the details. So basically, and they have to have knowledge.
Right. So Bronwyn represents the high CI. So it leads with relationships. So it leads with task. So it's about efficiency and getting stuff done, but it's also about the underlying power coming through of be impressive and know me, know your stuff, know me. Be prepared. Don't just show up and wing it. Claire said a similar thing. She said, don't just show up and wing it. Get your ass in gear and recognize that I am judging you, whether you are worthy to engage with. All right? Bronwyn is doing the same thing. Rick is more forgiving, all right, from his group. If we look at Rick's group, which are the ICs and also a combination of C and I, but they're slightly more forgiving. They'll give you that extra chance, but the jury is out. So anyone with the I coming through, that sort of personable ability, the ability to talk, and look who took front stage quite easily. People who've got the high I coming through. They like to be related to, but it is business, but it's important. If you go to the high Ds, the Jasons, the Leelas, and the Megans, the high Cs, high Ds, it's not about relationship. We don't want a phone call. We don't want a fuss. We don't want anything like that. We just want you to bloody well do your job. I am a high DI. I don't want any relationship with my bank manager. I don't care if he forgets my name and calls me Fred. Just so long as at the end of the day, when I need to up my EAP limit or I need to engage with him, he's there and he returns my phone call. Then I love him and I tell everybody about him. Few words, minimal time, be at the end of a phone call. So what you're starting to understand is when you build rapport with these different groups of people, it's different ways of doing it. High Ds, anyone with a high D coming through loves the confidence of a face-to-face. So don't phone them and make an appointment. Don't email them and make an appointment. Pick up the phone and say, hi, Kathi here. Mark, I'd love to make a call. Hi, it's Kathi here. Heidi, may I come and see you? And be prepared to answer their questions on what it's about and give them some sense of why you want to do that. So they need to know where this is going. I've just been appointed your new bank manager, and it's important to me that we eyeball each other and make sure that we are aligned. It's all a high D needs. High I's, do it over lunch. It's the best way that you can engage someone who's got high I coming through. Be astute, be prepared, and ask them questions about themselves. That establishes rapport and makes them feel known. The high C's come armed with the facts. Come ready for questions and give them space and time to ask those questions, because that's what matters to them. Assure them of what's going on. And high S's, it's all about making sure that you take time to know me, that you care about me, that you've served other people like me, and ask questions. And do it slowly, paced, over a coffee. We don't need to waste time on a lunch. High I's, please take me to an award-winning restaurant. High D's, please don't take me to lunch at all. I'm not interested. High C's, email it. And that's how you build rapport. This is not even closing the sale. This is not even doing sales. This is simply creating a relationship. Can you start to see how the different dispositions do it different? You can create relationship with high C's over the email just by being efficient. You cannot do that with high I's or high D's. High D's see it as an absence of confidence and cowardly. And high I's go, what the hell? And they'll ignore it. Okay. So building rapport, know who is your who. Take time, stalk them on Facebook to find out who is my who. So thank you. So I'm going to call on the same spokespeople just to keep it efficient. And if you feel the need to change it up after lunch, then we'll do that. But thank you to the contributors, and hopefully that was starting to build some intel that was useful. So I'm going to go back to screen share and pick up with the next video. Right. So Sandy, hopefully everyone can see the screen. You are my tester.
I'm the tester and I can see.
Okay, so now we're on to Meryl from The Devil Wears Prada, and I would like you, using the little know-how that you have now about the dispositional types, please note on your little piece of paper, what is she? So we're now going to get ready to go into our second breakaway rooms, and you're going to go back into the same groups that you were with before, because they are your dispositional allies, okay? And what we're after here is we're saying, what's in it for me? Understanding how WIFM is different for different dispositions. So the value proposition that Sandy is going to be putting into your chat box is this: if your spouse, child, dear family members were trying to persuade you, right, so people that you care about, to agree to go on a holiday to Iceland in September 2021. Okay, so that's the scenario. It's not a pure selling situation. Someone who you deeply care about, one of your dear ones, is saying, you know what, let's go on holiday to Iceland in September 2021. What would persuade you to think this is a grand idea and win you round? What would they have to say to you? Would there be information and details? How would you organize it? And how would you tackle paying for it? Okay, so that's the scenario. Sandy's popped it into the chat box, so you can go back and you can relook it, but that's what we want to hear back from. Chat about it as a group at the 10-minute breakaway time. That's going to be your opportunity for the spokespeople to just pull together the group representation and showcase for us how this would happen. How would I persuade you to go on holiday to Iceland? And how would you tackle organizing it and paying for it? So Sandy, over to you. Can you pop people into their groups and have a good, meaningful discussion, guys? Put your heart and soul into it.
I'm popping.
Excellent.
Have quality time. We wanted small groups. We wanted to really know how we were going to benefit. So basically, we were going to have an amazing time. How also what was very important was how important we were to the group or to the actual holiday. We needed to know that. We didn't necessarily want to be involved in the nitty-gritty of organizing, but we wanted a strong input.
Right. So can I say that it's all about you? So even though, so even though
we kind of thought that maybe everybody wouldn't like to go with us.
Well, that's also probably true, but the reality is that when you put your minds to it, you guys can be charming company, but only when you choose to be. So the bottom line with the high IDs is you are fists, iron fists in a velvet glove. You can be exceptionally charming and you can be a bitch from hell, the bunch of you. And if you are for something, there is no greater force. If you are against something, there is no greater force. So the bottom line is it's all about me. So if I want to sell you on holiday, I need to say, this is what you did, this is what you imagine, what fun you'll have. I need to sketch it, but I need to make it about you. Okay. Isn't that interesting? You don't like organizing the shit. That someone else must do that, and God help them if they're not efficient. Absolutely. Right? And how will you be paying for it? Handsomely. So it better be worth your money. Correct? Okay, so we've got the picture of the high.
Yeah, we want value for money.
Value for money. I'm paying a shed load of money for it, and I'm going to underline that, so it better be worth my while. So there's a hint of menace underneath the charm. There's a hint of watch out, deliver underneath the warmth. Okay, you're on display and you're being adjudicated when you engage with a high ID. And they will make you feel it. And if you step out of line, they'll nicely, with a sense of humor, with a little well-placed quip, bring you back into shine up, shine up. Okay. Iron fist in a velvet glove. Do not mistake the velvet glove for lack of strength, and watch their tongues. Yes. So you better be an efficient travel agent. Excellent. Thank you for that. Shout if I'm wrong. Leila? Right. Jason, unmute thyself. Let's hear from the D's and C's. So this is the task-oriented people, but with strength. So what would an Icelandic holiday look like if I had to persuade you?
Well, in terms of your task orientation phrase, I think our answer is going to be fairly congruent with that. We decided a few things, just a few anecdotes before we kind of get to our punchline. We wanted a value proposition, just get it done. Yeah. We wanted it to be structured. We wanted our family to anticipate our needs in advance, and I suppose that ties in with the fiscal drivers. Don't ask me to go on holiday in Iceland if you know as a family that I've just taken an extra, or poured 500 grand into my bond and I can't afford it. You know, anticipate the fiscal drivers. So it all has to make sense, and don't overwhelm us with detail. Just get it done. But ultimately, the consensus is we'd all like some form of control in terms of checks and balances, and that reverts back to the due diligence in the last room we were in.
Okay.
But it was about a 60-40 split between choosing our own and having it selected for us.
Let me stop you there. Can you hear the nuanced differences coming through? Leila's talking about impress me. How's it all going to work? Jason's going, right, if I've got the money, have the holiday. Don't bore me with the details. Get it sorted, and it better be awesome. I don't want to know anything else. I'm a high C with D, and I've got strength. And if you cock up, I'll shit on you. There we go.
Yet we do. There's a general consensus within the group that we'd like to be able to do a bit of due diligence ourselves, which correlates with the last group. Yeah.
Of course. So the thing is about the high Cs, they want to check their facts. They want to double check you, and they will. And if you are being found wanting, the high D will let you know. You've cocked up here, you haven't done this, you haven't thought that. The difference between Jason's group and Leila's group, Jason's group will be simply pointing out the fact you've cocked up. Leila's group will be making an implied personal criticism along with the fact. Your shit, shine up. Jason's group is, it's shit, different. All right. So when the high eyes personally come at you and go, your shit, it's just their way of saying it's shit. But it feels different. Okay. The high eyes, it feels personal, and you're tempted, therefore, to get defensive. The high C's, you can just get offended because there's no personal intention. Do not mix the two. So when you defend yourself to high CDs, DCs, they go, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Why are you defending yourself? I'm simply pointing out a fact. When you defend yourself to the high Ds and the DIs, you're going to get into a fight because they're going to want their opinion to trump, because it's how they feel about you. And it's how they feel about the service that you're delivering. It's personal. Do not confuse the two. Because when you look at the behavior, it feels very similar, but the intention couldn't be further apart if you tried. High CDs do not have agendas. High Ds do not have agendas. It's shit. It is shit, not you, it.
Get it done.
Get it done. How, why, solve the problem. Whereas the high Ds are, say sorry, make sure that you recognize that you cocked up before you solve the problem. Okay, neither is right, it's just different. Thank you, Jason. Megan, let's go to the high Cs without the D coming through.
Hi. So we really wanted to know why this trip. We wanted it to be explained to us, all the reasons why. And then pretty much the second thing we wanted to know is what will be the costs involved. And pretty much all of us would be saving up front. We would not be spending this on our credit card. We would have a plan on how to save so that by the time we go on the holiday, we'll have all the money that we need. We would do research ahead of time. And then we had an interesting discussion about whether we would want to be the one organizing everything ahead of time, or whether there was only one person in the group who was willing to wing it, but only from day 3. Day 1 and 2 have to be nicely planned. I get it. And then if we handed over organizing to someone else, we would want to be very sure that they're going to organize and not forget any of the details.
Brilliant. Now, can you guys feel the difference between Jason's presentation and Megan's? Jason has a strength and a Rottweiler menace in the nicest possible sense. There you can feel it. Whereas Megan is just she's just calmly and nicely, but incisively telling you, I need to do the research. I need to check myself. I need to have control. We need to see how we're going to plan it. We need to be planned. We need to be sorted. We need to get involved in the details. We need to make sure this will work. We need to know in advance. Jason's like, I don't really need to know. Hi, D and I and D is like, is this going to be awesome for me? Yes or no? Okay, thank you, Megan. Let's go to Natalie, the high S's. So these are the Labradors, the status quo, the peacekeepers, the watchers. Natalie, my darling, how would an Iceland holiday look and feel for you?
So from our side, we would obviously want to have researched. We want to know the budget. We want to know the exchange rates. We want to know that we can afford it without getting into any debt. We would also want to have an itinerary or a spreadsheet of a start and a finish date, what we would be doing in between, or not be, or just weighing it. Some of the guys on our group, they would be quite happy to just plan a holiday and just sort of go, whereas our ladies were more itinerary sort of based, and we would obviously, if there were kids involved, they would have to let us know what makes this a very attractive holiday in Iceland. So come with me with all the details.
Stop. So let me interrupt because that's my job as the facilitator. But how interesting. This is the first person in the group who's mentioned the kids. Right? The others didn't mention the kids. Now, the kids were implied, obviously, and you're going to say, oh, well, you didn't ask me to mention the kids. But Natalie, first up in front, has mentioned the kids, because high S's are about relationship and family and care for others. She's talked about they want to be able to afford it. Megan talked about expenses. It's different. One is affording it, one is expenses. One is a fact, expenses, one is affording. Is this going to be okay? Are we going to be safe? Can we do this? Right? One is looking at the information, one is looking at the sense of where are we going to be. Natalie is talking about, we need to do some research, but it's around testimony, it's around itinerary. What are we going to be doing? How is this going to impact the family? Whereas Megan is, what's the structure? Where are we going to be staying? What time are we going to be leaving? Jason was also, get those details because I'm not doing inefficiency. The high I's and DI's are the little princes and princesses. They're going, I shall be served efficiently, otherwise you will feel my tongue. And when it's awesome, we shall wax lyrical and expend expensive champagne on you for being awesome. Are you guys starting to get a feel of the difference? Okay, so Natalie's group represents the S's with the C coming through. All right, so there is a sense of following through, detail, getting it done, but she's the first one to mention the kids. And the pace is different. Megan is quite fast, but measured. Natalie is relaxed. Jason is more matter of fact and perfunctory. Leila was getting through the stuff quickly as well, all right, but with a charming exterior. Spoonful of sugar. All right. Okay, thank you, Natalie. I stopped you short for time. Please don't take it personally.
No, not at all.
Brilliant. Dane, let's go to you. The high C's. I'm coming now. High C's, Dane.
Yeah, so we, for the most part, everyone was wanting details to make a decision on. So they were, most of the group was like, we need to know, most importantly, what is it going to be worthwhile? Because almost everyone was like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. I need detail about what we can do there that's going to be fun, that's going to make it worthwhile. They're like, if it's not worthwhile, we're not going to do it regardless. Like that was the one thing that came across pretty much from the whole.
So Jason has just fainted and Leela has also just fainted because they go, what? Why do you need detail? Iceland's awesome. Get with the program. It's on everyone's bucket list. What is your problem? Okay. And they're laughing now because they know that I'm right. So yes, high C's, you want all the information. Okay.
And in terms of planning, it was a little interesting because some of us were happy to, so a few of us were very dead set on doing it ourselves, making sure, because we needed to make sure that we're involved so that we know that it's going to work out. And then there was sort of me and Candace who were like, well, we're okay to delegate as long as we can check it at the end to make sure that it works. You know?
QC. Here are the high C's. QC. Factually brilliant. Absolutely accurate. We will delegate to you, but shit, you better be perfect. Because we can do it perfectly. High C's, high D's and I's, you could possibly not do it quite as perfectly because you don't have the same attention to detail, but you are big critics if people don't get the detail right. Thank you, Dane. Now, the group 6. So this was Eleanor's group, Claudelle's group. My humble apologies. I forgot to ask how we build rapport with you. I missed you out. So who was the speaker in that room?
Hi, that's me.
Who's that? Demi, is it you?
Yes.
So Demi,
Hi.
take us one back. My sincere apologies for that. And isn't it interesting that that group didn't say anything? They didn't say, Kath, you've missed us out. Now, if it had been Jason's group, we'd have had a little email to Sandy going, sorry, we didn't get a chance to speak. If it had been Leela's group, we'd have had, interesting, you missed us out, exclamation mark, smiley face. If it had been the C's, it would have been simply, we didn't get a chance to speak. Can we speak next? It would be lovely if we could speak. We've got something valuable to add. Is that going to be okay? The S's just kept quiet.
With us, we did discuss it, and we thought that maybe there were too many groups, and you divided it in so that everyone gets a chance to speak.
Look at how lovely they are. They didn't say you're an inefficient git, you and Sandy. They said, there must have been a good reason for it because they're kind. No, Demi, we cocked up. We completely forgot you. Our sincere apologies. So will you just tell us how we build rapport with you lot?
Are you referring to the first question now?
First question, because we never heard from you.
Okay, so we were big on communication.
Yes.
We wanted to in-person, we wanted to see, because facial expressions, and if we see how you are in your comfort zone, we will know how you will be. And we wanted to feel comfortable. One of the group members actually mentioned maybe sharing something, making you think it's confidential, just so you feel like you're in the know, so you feel more comfortable. And we want to know that you can actually deliver on what you are saying.
Absolutely. So you want to be brought into the inner circle, and if it wasn't for COVID, you'd hug.
Yes.
Yes, of course you would. Jason just had a heart attack. Leela's like, dear God, I've never hugged the bank manager. Well, unless the bank manager's done me really good and got me a specific bond, and then I'll hug the bank manager because there's a reason to it. Megan and Dane's group are going, no, we don't hug. We email. We don't hug. Ever. Thank you. Right. So that's brilliant. So it's in person because there's non-verbal communication. And isn't that interesting that the people, the ISs and the SIs are the first ones to mention non-verbal communication. They're watching how we be, not just what we say. And they are right, because 70% of communication is non-verbal. So they are watching your posture, your tone, your eye contact, even though you may not be aware of it, and neither will they. So Demi, thank you. Now talk to me about the Iceland holiday. How will that work for you lot? What fun! Can you imagine Iceland? Yay!
We said that we are very easily it's very easy for us to be influenced, but we will need details. We would need to know ahead of time so we can make plans and make sure that everything is organized. We want to make everything organized so that nothing gets left behind or forgotten. And we need time to make sure we have a plan to gather the money, the funds for us to be sure we can afford it. And we also want to make sure we will actually enjoy it. And we want to make sure it's family friendly. We want to know that where we are going, so we can be prepared and know, okay, if it's really cold there or really hot there, we want to be prepared. We don't want unforeseen circumstances.
Stop for a moment there. So they don't like hitting surprises, things coming out necessarily, but at the same time, it's got to be fun and enjoyable. And Demi's the first group to mention it's got to be enjoyable. Leela, you sort of touched on it. We've got to have fun. We've got to be served well in this thing, right? But Demi, you're talking, we've got to have fun. So there's a gentler delivery here. Now, please understand that when I say these things, I'm not criticizing anybody, because none of the behaviors are wrong in and of themselves. They just are. Does that make sense? I'm not making a judgment call here. I'm underlining how the behavior works and why it works. Right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Demi's group are people pleasers. They love people. They can feel vibes. They want to know that everything is going to be okay. And that's what they're checking for. Okay. Brilliant. Demi, thank you for that. We shall call on you again. Claire, can we go to the high eyes? Unadulterated high eyes. And Claire?
Yes. It doesn't take much convincing for holidays. This is actually, I just want to say this is very, very funny because of how much we travel anyway. So you need to engage our senses. So if you want to convince us, show me pictures, show me experiences, the food, the visual, and all the experiences and that kind of thing. Not too much of the details.
Up to me. Imagine what this is going to look like. And where are we going next week, next month? Can't wait.
Yeah, but we don't need that much convincing.
No.
And the fun experiences.
Life is holiday.
In terms of so in terms of paying, we wouldn't really want to go into debt, and it needs to be fair. So I need to know upfront what the expectations are, and it needs to be stuck to that. So people mustn't go and oh well, you just pay for drinks even though you didn't contribute, stuff like that. It needs to be fair, and that kind of needs to be. We need to know what the clear expectations are around those things. In terms of, and the same as with.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear? And I'm going to use the word menace. And I don't mean it negatively. Can you hear, Claire? Can you hear the undertone of the high eye going, you better perform. This thing better be worthwhile. Can you hear it in her tone? And it wasn't there with Demi. It wasn't there in the same way with Jason, but it's there in the high eyes because they are adjudicating you.
Yeah.
So understand that there's going to be a value. You've got to earn the right. So high eyes can be quite high maintenance, but awfully good fun. Awfully good fun, but they are high maintenance because they have this demand of you. Demi, that group is more restful, but not as colorful and dynamic. So think brilliant electric blue, high eye, and gentle sky blue, Demi's group. Right. And Claire's group love holidays. They live, that's what they work for. They work to earn a holiday. Demi's group rewards once a year. Yes. Okay. So it's different motivations, different ways of engaging with them. So Claire, how will you pay for it?
So probably do like 50-50. We'd also want to know who's coming on the trip with us.
Oh, yes, because
So
God help us if they're not a good crowd, then we're not
Yes.
good. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
so, and if they're funny people, like, that's going to set up for a bad holiday, so we might pull out. And
So
then
we want to know who we're hanging around with.
yes.
That's it.
And then in terms of organizing, we'd probably engage our high C or people with C, like me, husbands, to do a lot of the planning and the research. And they're like fiddly things, because like certain things like airport transports and booking the car and stuff, like
detail, yes.
do it. But we do want to be like consulted and given options. So
stop there.
Also, we don't necessarily want to make if we do some organizing, we want input into our decisions.
Okay, so let me stop you there. So again, can you hear that sort of measured, you're on trial coming through there? So they delegate well, high I's. They delegate the best of the group. They love, the biggest gift to a high I is the PA. So work through the PA, make them feel important. Talk about their people. Talk about getting in touch with their people, right? My people will get in touch with your people. And at the end of the day, they love high C's. They use other people really well. They have servants. They're like cats. Okay, that's it. High I's can make you feel like a servant. They have servants. High C's and D's have resources about getting the task done. High S's and S's, Demi's group, that lot are going, I don't know what you're talking about. What a horrible thing to say about people. That's horrible. Are you getting the picture? Right. Who are we going to?
Kathi, the last thing is that
your time's up. You can share it next time.
Sorry, just stick to commitments and don't be late. If there's an agreed itinerary, stick to that. Like, yeah.
Don't break your promises.
Yes.
There's tennis again. Be good. Okay, thank you, Claire. And always have the last word. High I's. Yes. Rick, let's go to you.
Okay, so yeah, the one thing that we started off with is we'd like to be a big group of family or maybe a big group of close friends if we want to do it. We won't take a lot of committing to do it, like Claire said for us, but it would be great if we could spend it with our loved ones, family-wise, or like a group of very good friends.
So let me stop you there. Claire will party with anyone who's decent and worthwhile. So will Leela's group, provided it doesn't waste my time. Rick is going, why would I want to party with strangers? Close family or friends or not at all? There's no point otherwise. Okay, not wrong, just different.
Yeah.
Okay,
and so also we want to spend some time relaxing away from work, not thinking about work, and be safe while doing it. So those are quite important points that came up.
Stop for a moment there. Can you hear the S coming through? We want to be safe. What an interesting term of phrase on holiday. I'm with Claire. Why would you want to be safe on holiday? I don't get that. But when you hear the S coming through, Demi relates to that. She goes, of course we want to be safe. We want to be relaxed. We want to be calm.
Yeah,
I'm just like, well, then it's not a good holiday. Okay, Rick, continue.
Yeah. Okay, and then when it comes to the finances, we want to make sure that we can afford it and plan for affording it, because we were all like sort of agreeing that it won't be easy to enjoy fully if we put ourselves under financial stress to undertake it. So.
Okay, now have a listen to that. So there would be an anxiety gnawing away at Rick if he had to pay it and couldn't afford it. Jason's group just wouldn't do that because that's just stupid, right?
Yeah.
So it's a different motivation. One is wanting to serve and will do it anyway, and then we'll have an internal anxiety. The other one's going, well, I'm not going to sign myself up for that. Claire will wing it and make a plan, her group. The Megan's group, Dane's group, the high C's go, well, that just sucks at bad planning. Plan better. Go later.
Yeah, that also ties in with my last point is what we also said is being excited about going on this big trip with family or friends, we would have been able to adapt the trip, maybe make it a bit shorter, stay in cheap hotels to make the finances work and still be able to undertake the trip. So everyone was sort of,
Yeah.
For that.
Now Claire's going, stay in a cheap hotel. Why? And don't go for a cheap champagne because otherwise it's not a holiday. Jason also with a sense of excellence. His group's going, no, not cheap. We don't do cheap. The high I's and D's, Leela's like, I don't think so. Megan's group, Dane's group, probably with you. And Demi's going, we don't have to have champagne. We'll fit in with whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. Right? You're starting to get a feel for the different dispositions. Right. Bronwyn, last group.
All right, so it's broken down into 4 points. So firstly, there was a level of anxiety, like, oh gosh, you want us to go to Iceland, and that's to do with the planning. Like, do we have the budget? Do we have a pet sitter? Who's going to, how are we going to do all of this? So it's very important for our family to come with a skeleton plan when they approach us about this holiday. Don't just...
Okay, wait, stop there. Can you hear the level of detail? Can you hear the C coming through? We've got a 4-point plan. And the first one is about the detail. Who's doing the pets? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? The rest of you didn't think about your poor cat and dog. Shame on you. Okay.
Okay. So, and then then you got to engage us. Will it be fun? Give us a visual. Why are we going there? We don't want to be going there and doing nothing. Is there going to be an itinerary? Don't waste our time. Is it going to be properly organized? And then if somebody else is doing the planning, that's fine, but we want to go over those plans and make sure that we agree with them. Okay, so
let me stop there. So can you hear the C coming through, but also the I, the delegating? So it's got to be fun, but it's got to be well organized. Task leads, but the relationship is there underneath. We'll work with other people, we'll delegate, but you can hear the volume of information coming out from Bronwyn. You can hear the points that she's making. You can start to see how high C's think, very ordered and logical. But you can hear the personability coming through. So we're logical and orderly, but don't forget the dogs, don't forget the cats, don't forget. And yes, we can have other people, but we just want to make sure that it's okay. Okay, good.
And then our last point would be, once we've agreed to it, we would go into overdrive and planning. Then every little thing would be planned out. So how we would pay for it, we'd have to look at our budget and we'd break that down into months. We would save, we would make it happen, and it would all be structured.
So it would be careful and measured and controlled and orderly, but in a calm way, not a Rottweiler way.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So are you guys starting to get a sense of the different dispositions and what works with them? Because that's what I'm trying to do today. It's too exhausting to go hard sell. This is how it works. Here are this A to Z about selling. So we're doing investing stuff on people because we want to end on a high note and a fun note. So hopefully you're having some fun. So what we're going to do now is, because we've sat for a long time, we're going to disappear off. Please come back, otherwise you don't get the recording and we will miss you. Okay, so we are going to disappear off for 10 minutes now, 10 minutes only, then come back. We're going to pick up with some more videos, and then I'm going to have a little break if there's any questions. So if you've got them, put them into the box, because chances are we may answer them when the rest of the presentation is done. Okay, is that a deal? So Sandy, let's place who the CFO and the CEO. So the CFO is the accountant, the CEO is the woman in charge. Note what all three are. So note down, and now we go to our next breakaway group. So you've got 25 minutes with your compadres who are now becoming family. And we're looking here at the power of questions, right? And the fascinating thing in sales is that questions are your friends. If you're going to be a problem solver, you need to know what problems to solve. You need to know what people are thinking. If you're going to engage well with them, you need to understand who is the person. And the way to do that is to shut your mouth and open your ears. Ask good questions and let people talk. So here's the next scenario. In order to get you to sign on the dotted line for 12 months for a DSTV and Netflix package, all right? So I've come to see you about this. You've expressed interest in it, and I'm now trying to pressurize you to sign for 12 months for a combined package. So there's a couple of things I want to... What are some good questions to uncover the real pain or cost of not saying yes? What would you want me to ask you to uncover the pain? What would be the problem that I am solving for you, and how would you like me to ask that? So you obviously have got a reason why you want to buy this thing. How would you like me to uncover that? What question would you like me to ask you? How would you like me to question you about the money? Do you want me to question you about the money? What will give you a sense of a good buy? How do I ask that question? Right? So remember, we want questions coming out of this. So for example, you might want to ask a high C, So this is really good value for money, isn't it? And if you don't buy this deal now, then you've got to buy DSTV and Netflix package on their own separately, which is going to cost you more. You could say to a high eye, imagine what Christmas in the snow is going to be like without a DSTV and Netflix package when everyone is homebound. And I'm uncovering pain with that. So what we're asking you to do is to say, beyond the receiving end of me getting you to sign, and what questions would you like me to ask you? Okay, have I made myself clear? And if I wanted to persuade you that I was good at what I would do, what questions would you like me to ask? So give us a sense of the good questions around this thing being of value, this thing something I sign now. What questions would you like me to ask? Would you think, gosh, that's a really good question. So make a list of them. So don't give me statements when I come to the feedback. Give me a list of questions. Okay. And Rick's group, he's had to disappear. We knew in advance, so you'll need to appoint a new spokesman, and just give Sandy a WhatsApp in the chat, a note in the chat box who the new speaker is. So Sandy, over to you. Let's put everyone into the groups, and you've got 25 minutes to list some good questions that you would like me to ask you to persuade you to sign for 12 months for a DSTV Netflix package. Good questions. Right, over to you, Sandy. Be harder because we're moving now from the nice rapport dating stuff into the more salesy stuff, but it's not quite as straightforward. So we're picking up the pace as we're getting you used to it. So we need to just run through the feedback. So let's start with you, Leela. Talk to me about what are some of the good questions. Now, I don't want commentary, I want the questions. So just read out good questions that IDs, DIs would want me as the person looking for a DSTV Netflix package to ask. Questions you would respect. So Leela, over to you.
Okay. What would make the package worthwhile to me? What would the benefits be in relation to the costs? And what we decided is we would hate anything scripted. So we needed to be very pointed towards us. And then we stopped because we have very different
Hang on a
interests.
sec. Sandy, can you mute everyone, please? And then Leela, because we're getting feedback. Okay, so yes, you don't want scripted, you want it perfected, but you don't want it to sound rehearsed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we're all about ourselves. So it's how it would be, what the worth of the package would be to us as individuals, more than family or other kind of things.
Absolutely.
We want to know the benefits in terms of cost. So we were very interested in the value. But we got two proper questions because everyone's needs are very different. And so we felt that as the conversation continued, it would become quite individualized.
Yes and no. But at the end of the day, what we need to understand from you guys is that questions to people who are high DSDIs need to be on how is this going to work for me and impact me, make it better for me. And the other thing is, am I going to get value? Not so much how much does it cost, but what value am I going to get for that? So they'll pay a high price for something that's good, so long as they get value. And you have to be prepared and impressive. Otherwise, they're not going to listen to you. And if you're crap, they'll tell you. But it's not engaging. Okay, Leela, thank you. Let's go, Jason. So this is now the Ds, but the CDs, not the I. So, Jason, where are you? Tell us. I can't see your
Well, in terms of the questions, look, can you see me?
Where are you? No. Yeah. Can you spotlight him, please, Sandy? There you are. Hello, Jason. I've got your face amongst the peanut gallery. Right, let's go.
Put it on speaker view, Kat.
Okay. No, that doesn't work. Jason,
right, so what we came up with as a group, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it. Go for it, Jason.
So we came up with quite a lot of sort of a brainstorming sort of thing. We do understand what DSTV are doing, so that might have led us into different avenues. But really, kind of the fundamental questions we asked, and we like to keep it short and succinct, is: you're approaching me. How do you harvest your data on me?
Okay.
Right? Why are you approaching me, or why should I do this? What do you know about my choices? And how does your data point to the changes in my choices over time? And how regularly will you send me data updates? And kind of where that was leading to, and a lot of the other sort of questions we asked is, we don't necessarily want just an email saying this is, from DSTV, this is the way that you're choosing things. We need to speak to a human, but we also need that backed up by data, hard data. We need to be informed, and we need to ensure that whoever's on the other end of the phone, or whatever software program it is that we are quite assured that we're getting regular data updates over time to make our decisions on DSTV relevant.
Yeah, stop there for a moment. Now, isn't that interesting? So the DCs are all about, what are you doing with my data? How are you going to invade me? What are you going to do? What are the facts, the systems? How's it working behind the scenes? Lena's group were like, I'm watching bloody television. I'm not interested in the data. And this television better be worth watching, otherwise I'm not paying for the package. Okay, so very different, nuanced, what they choose to refer to. Thank you, Jason. Megan, let's go to you, the high C without the D, because you felt Jason's strength coming through, and you felt the judgment in the nicest possible sense coming through from Lila. Right, so Megan, I see. Let's have a go.
Yes.
What were the questions I need to ask you that would impress you?
There are a lot of streaming sites out there. Have you seen or compared prices? Another question. Our prices are very competitive, and we would all like to save money during this crisis. Do you not agree? Another question. Are you working from home? Do you have kids? And do you need good shows to keep them occupied? Two more questions. What would you do without this on a cold winter's night? Think practically. And then my favorite question of all, do you have all the information you need to make a decision?
Aha. So thank you, Megan. And we love your engagement ring, by the way. Newly engaged. Flash it. Give a little flash. Give a little flash. Oh, look at that. Newly engaged. Right. Anyway, I digress. So the point here is quiet practicality, quiet efficiency. Be prepared. Ask good questions. Give information. And it's around an all-round usage, because we like to sweat our assets to the full when we're high C. So it's fine brushstrokes. Jason was a heavier big picture. It's about the data, don't invade. This is a finer touch, finer brushstroke. You can feel the difference between them. Thank you, Megan. Let's go to Natalie, representing the Labradors. Hello, Natalie. Right. So,
hello. Okay, so it would be, how much money would I be spending, or how much money could I save taking this package? Right. How would it benefit my family? How would it improve the quality time that I spend with my family?
Stop there. Can you hear the languaging, guys? Can you hear what Natalie, she's the first one to mention quality family time. She's saying, when you talk about price, do it in relation to the benefits, not to me as the IDs, DIs, but to the family, the people I care about. She is the first one to mention, how much will I be saving around this deal? Others didn't mention it yet. They talked about giving the price. Natalie's referring to the saving. Okay, keep going, Natalie. Other questions?
Yeah, just how would it improve, obviously, quality time with family in terms of the different platforms? So whether it would be attracting sports, education, movies.
Got it. But at the end of the day, it's about engaging the family. Thank you. Dane, high C's and also S's, but SCCS's. Dane, let's hear from you.
All right. We did find it quite tricky, because we're trying to develop questions that they would ask us on a platform that none of us were actually interested in. So it made it a good challenge. We started off by having questions that were related to the details, of course, being my group. So it was like, do you have all the information? Do you know about what's included, et cetera, et cetera? Then we talked about what's the best way to communicate with you? So that we could immediately answer with, well, not via phone call or in person. Then we had some questions about suitability, like, what are you most interested in? Or do you have a stable internet connection would it work for us in a sort of practical sense? Then we had some questions around the why. So the person could ask questions like, do you know about the alternatives? And they can position it in a good way. Or do you know which movies you'd like to watch already? And then there were some questions around the social aspects of it. So there were questions like, if you were to buy this, who would you like to share your contract with? You know, your family members, who would like to have a profile with you?
Okay, Dane, let me stop you there. Can you guys hear the level of detail that Dane is going into? Right? Isn't that interesting? A lot of you have glazed out already because you're like, holy crap, all that fuss over a thing. And the interesting thing is Dane and his group applied their mind, even though they're not personally interested in it. So now high eyes wouldn't do that. They wouldn't go to the trouble of doing something that is not interesting to them. High S's, unless it affected the family, they also wouldn't. But high C's, we got told to do it, so we followed the rules, we'll do it anyway. All right. So they're very compliant in that regard. And that's a nice thing to know about high C's. They'll do tasks they don't like. D's are the same. They'll get down and get dirty and do a task that they don't like, don't enjoy, because it has to be done, because it needs to be done. Because they don't let their sentiments get in the way of what needs to be done. But they're very detail-oriented. Okay, and Dane has evidenced that to you. So you need to ask a lot of questions if you want to satisfy a high C. All right, let's go to Demi, your group. Thank you, Dane. The S's. All right, so whereas Natalie was the SC, now we're going to the SI. So these are the quiet people. Let's unmute you. Hi. Hello, Demi. Yes.
Hi. So firstly, we prefer it to be in person because we want them to be able to have sense what personality type we have and base their sale based on that. Some of the questions that we have is that we want them to ask about our family, who will be using the package, how many devices we have, how often we will be using it, and adjust the package accordingly. They need to give us options and not make us feel pressurized, because we don't want to go home and feel, okay, I can't afford this, how am I going to get out of this? We don't want to sit with that situation.
Let me stop you there. So isn't that interesting? Did you hear this is the first time, and this is very typical of the high S's, the people, is they don't want to be caught in a pressurizing situation where they've got no answers to the people they care about. All right? So now listen, can I just stop Demi there? We've got a couple of people saying, you know, we have to leave and whatever. We are committed today to finishing this off at just before 3-ish, just around 3-ish. We always say till 3:30, but then we finish early to reward you. So we're going to tell you that now. So don't run away, because we're going to wrap this up. We've got other things to do. Change them up. Demi, I interrupted. Go.
Sorry. We also want them to give
us... Stop for a moment. Isn't that interesting? I interrupted her and she's apologizing. Very high S behavior. Okay, go for it.
We want them to give us quotes about different options so that we don't feel like we're forced to take only the 12 months. We want them to know their business, to give us options to say, okay, and then we want them to see, okay, on our faces, like, oh, this is not going to work, we can't afford this. So we want them to then, okay, let's not make it uncomfortable, because we are very ego-based. Like in the previous situation, we want them to explain to us, that they need us in the vacation. Fluff our ego a little bit. Okay. So we want them to sense this and not bruise our ego, and then offer us something else. We want to know the educational and social benefits we can get for our children. We want them, everyone to get a benefit out of it.
Okay, so let me stop you there. Now, isn't this interesting? So Dane asked a lot of questions. Megan asked a lot of questions. Demi's doing a lot of talking about the questions. Okay, so this is the high S's, the people. They tend to be long-winded. Don't get impatient with them, because what she's doing is she's listening to the sound of her own voice, and she's getting around to the point that she wants to make on the way. Megan's already thought it through. Dane's already thought it through. Demi's formulating it as she goes. So she's been long-winded because she's thinking on the hop. Right? Am I right, Demi?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And all of her stuff is about let me know, but not like the D's and I's, D's, where it's about what's going to work for me. She's saying what's going to work for my environment, my family, those around me. It's a different orientation. And there's a temptation to therefore think that D's, I's, D's as people are selfish, but they're not. They're self-serving, which is extremely useful in certain contexts because then they can strip stuff away. They can't be taken advantage of, but it can be very selfish or come across as selfish. By the same token, Demi's disposition can be seen as other-serving, which is extremely lovely, but it can also mean that she expends herself at other people's benefit, and she therefore doesn't have good boundaries in place. So she's so busy thinking about everyone else that she doesn't make a decision. Okay, there's too many options. Doesn't know which one to choose, but it's coming from, I want to make sure I've made the best decision and I want to be able to just tick the boxes. It's an anxiety-based thing, whereas the C thing is a fact-finding mission. Okay, am I right? So you want to be safe in your choices. You want to be well considered, having made all of those. You haven't left anything to chance. Okay, got you. Thank you, Demi. Claire, the high eyes, the unadulterated high eyes. Claire, you still there? Over to you. Now, keep it short.
First thing is spot on, because we were not really interested in this. So it was very hard. I think the first thing you'd have to ask us, because we're all not TV people, is what is our maybe...
Hang on a sec. Why are you not TV people?
It's a waste of time. It's not quality time for me. I don't know.
Okay, that's enough. All right.
What is our opinion about TV? And then you'd have to, like, the one thing was that you'd have to point out the benefits to our family, you know, husband and kids, and maybe giving us some me time and also being educational for the kids in that. The one thing in terms of payment and stuff was maybe you could consider giving us a free trial to test it out, because we'd probably forget to cancel the subscription anyway.
So let me just stop you there, but isn't this hilarious? Can you guys see the difference coming through? I mean, Claire, thank you for being so, because you know my heart is in the right place, but it is just hilarious. Me time, it's about educational status, it's about consider a free trial. No one else on this call so far, apart from this group, has said, so what's in it for me? What are you going to give me? Let's get a little bit here. Come on. Let's deal. Let's negotiate in my favor, naturally. Okay. So the high eyes are very good at wiggling stuff out. They're good social oil. All right. Because they're not afraid to speak up and ask for an arm and a leg and a toe and a foot. Why not? You can say no. All right. So they are very much... Sorry, back again, shutting door. They are very much around getting real bang for their buck because they're not afraid to ask. Demi's group wouldn't have had the courage to ask for a free trial. The CD group, Jason's group, has the strength, but it wouldn't occur to them unless it was offered. Megan's group, if it was offered, they'd ask, but they probably wouldn't ask. But no, there's no stopping the high eyes. We will ask. They always say no. So they'll ask for discounts. They'll ask for what's in it for me. They'll ask for package deals. They'll ask for payment terms. They'll ask you to make exceptions and treat them differently, importantly. But first up, Claire's thing was ask my opinion. Let me talk. Let me give you my opinion about TV. All right? Don't just assume. Don't assume. Ask. So Claire, that's brilliant because it's illuminating beautifully how high eyes operate. And can you see Claire's body language? So Dane didn't enjoy this, but he put on a smiley face. Claire's body language, she didn't enjoy this, and it showed. Okay, it showed. It was written all over her face. I'll indulge you guys. I'll do you a favor. I'll indulge you. Can you see the high eye coming through? Okay. The flip side of the high eye is that it's engaging. It's good grinding because you know you'll have had good contact sport with someone who's a high eye because they've got high standards. Not to say C's haven't, but they will engage you and it'll be spirited. And when you come out winning, you'll really feel that you've won. Okay, so now Tatiana, Rick has had to leave. He warned us in advance. So you're going to be speaking for the ICs. Thank you, Claire. You're being a fabulous high eye.
So our questions, so we ask, do you and your family often have fights about who gets to watch what? on TV.
Okay.
And then another question would, do you travel a lot and want access to your favorite shows from the comfort of any device? And then we all a sucker for a good deal. So wouldn't you like to get the benefits of DSTV and Netflix and only pay a fraction of the price? And yeah, the rest was sort of around that. Do you want to pay more and get and pay less and get more for your money? And then maybe asking some questions around what we're currently watching, what shows are we into. The big thing kind of hung on having the flexibility to go to DSTV and kind of like not missing out, not missing out on either
Tatiana,
option.
let me stop you there. So guys, are you watching now how Tatiana is doing this? So these are now the IC. So it's the I with the C coming through. So note that she's reading from notes. She's not winging it like Claire did. All right. Note that she's reading stuff. She's being very thorough. She's answering the question. That's the C coming through. But can you see the I and that she's using her hands? So here was down reading the notes, and then she was using her hands to explain to everybody. That's the I coming through, but it's in a C thing. So it's more packaged and more precise than Claire's group, which is more the high I. So they wing it with strength and kind of standing on a podium. Tatiana, there's a kind of a nuanced sort of, not quite as certain and quite as sure in the delivery. All right. More checking it out, looking at the facts, making sure, but then talking with her hands. It's the high I coming through. Okay. All right. Both warm, both personable, but a different flavor and feel. Can you feel it? Can you see the difference between them? Okay, that's the question that we're wanting to make sure. Okay, now we go to Bronwyn, who's the CI. So the task leads and the I is there underneath. Bronwyn, let's hear from you.
Okay, so one of the first questions is like, do you have kids, and what are you planning to do with them over the December holidays for 6 weeks? So
okay,
that's
and very direct, but good question. Okay,
that was for us. It was what came through was anything that will sort of help us plan so that we can do what we want to do, and help us plan. So another question was, what needs to be different for you to be able to sign today? And in other words, what are your concerns about this? And then letting us fill in the gap.
Okay, so Bronwyn, let me interrupt you there. So that's an interesting thing. So the C was we want to be able to plan the holiday, but so we can do what we can do. There's the I coming through, the self-serving I, and don't see that as a judgment call. But can you hear the self-serving I coming through? Plan, 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 Megan's lot, Dane's lot, but so I can do what I want to do. Okay, not added in Megan's lot, Jason's lot, Dane's lot. Okay, so there's the I coming through, right? So speak to some of that with Bronwyn and her group. Okay, facts, but speaking to, and then you'll have free time. How will that feel? And she'll go, awesome. Hello, Cameron, welcome back. Okay, go Bronwyn.
So then another question would be, so what do you like watching? What does your partner like watching? How would it feel if you could watch a documentary and your partner could watch the sport? And then we'd think about that going, oh, that would actually be awesome. Because then once again, we can do what we want to do and we don't have to sort of entertain in somebody else.
Very good. And the thing is thinking in compartmentalizations, all right? Kids can do this and the others can do that. Whereas for some of the, like Demi, that would be an absolute nightmare. She'd never get something like Netflix so we can all watch something separate. We want to watch it as a family together. Okay. Right.
Yeah. And then the last one was, what would it feel like if one signature today made it easy so that you don't have to think about the bills? It's one bill coming off in the background on your debit order, and you can cancel at any time if you're not happy.
Right.
So that speaks to basically the ease of admin. It's all sorted, it's planned, it's coming off automatically. And we have choice that if we don't like it, and we've now tested and measured it, we don't like it, we don't want it, we can cancel it.
Okay, so did you hear the words? Test and measure, very high C thing to say, right? Coming through as part of what they want to do. Risha, how's lunch, darling? Excellent. Right, so guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to one more little clip. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a 20-minute lunch break. Risha, you'll be pleased to hear, so you can chew and swallow in peace without me picking on you. We're going to take a 20-minute lunch break for you to stretch, run up and down the stairs, grab something to eat, and then come back, because what we're going to do in the last one is we're going to hear different feedbacks on handling objections. And then I'm going to put all this together and give you some summaries by the different dispositional types about what works in sales to them. And I'm going to decode those film clips for you, and you may be surprised. We are hoping to finish on the... Okay, so make a note there of what you think Judy is in that M. So guys, lunch break. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I think that we're having a technical reality because there's about 60 of you on this call. And so that we've managed not to drop the ball tech-wise, I think is awesome. So just into the chat box, what's the number one thing you've learned so far? Pop something in. And Andrew, stay if you can. Got your message. Stay if you can. Adette, you can go. You don't own the business. So into the chat box, everybody, what are you learning? What's the number one thing that you're learning? Juanita, thank you. So many different personalities there are.
Mark says, hi, Esther's have pictures on the wall behind them.
Yes, I'll read them out. Thank you. Understanding others in the power of DISC. Ashwarya, thank you. Important to analyze the audience. Thank you, Viv. Johannes, understanding the profiles prior to a sales meeting. Very good. Claire saying she's trying desperately not to take my comments too personally. They're not meant. Sian, you're learning to better read people. Thank you. Pam, understanding different personalities. Yes, you've got a hard selling job, Pam. The more you know about the people you're selling to, the better. Alan, thank you. You can indeed learn this stuff. Sasha, thank you for that. If it won't work in dating, it won't work in sales. Sales is nuanced. Amy, it's not that difficult to decipher other people's discs. It just takes practice. And if you know what to look for in the key elements and you start doing this in practice, you'll be amazed what can come right. Ingrid is going to start classifying people every time she meets someone. I do get asked that. Do you analyze? And I answer never after hours and never for free. It's my standard response. I had a Danish colleague who said that makes me sound like a prostitute. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to let that comment lie. Yes, Frank, excellent. What I need to know, what I don't know to be a better leader. Yes, nuanced way of dealing with people. Because at the end of the day, leaders sell to their teams. Okay, guys, keep the commentary coming and we will deal with it, but on with the show, as they say in the classics. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to brief you. Okay, so show of thumbs up. Are you finding this intel useful? Excellent. Right, then we are not wasting time. That was a majority rule, so anyone who's not, sucks to you. Okay, so let's go to our next breakaway. So what I've done here is I'm going to give you slightly longer if needs be. And you don't want to spend too much time on it. But what's the number one best response for your group to these objections? So when you say to someone, I'm sorry, you're just too expensive, how will I hit you with a good response? What will that be? When you tell me, look, we've decided to go with another service provider, what will I say to you that will impress you? If you ask what sort of discount could you give, what will I say that would impress you? So let me give you an example. I'm a high DI, as you all know. So if you were to say to me, or in the situation, if I was to say to you, I'm sorry, but you're just too expensive, you would get me if you came back to me and said, Kath, expensive in relation to what? If I said, I'm sorry, you're just too expensive, and you came back and said to me with the greatest of respect, so are you, I would be impressed. If I said to you as a high D, we've decided to go with another service provider, and you came back to me and said, Kath, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you completely satisfied that that service provider is going to give you what you need? I would be impressed. If I said to you, what sort of discount could you give? And you came back and said, we don't do cheap. I'd be impressed. If I said to you, not right now, perhaps in the new year, I would be impressed if you came back to me and said, and Kath, can I just ask you what the cost of waiting is going to be? If I said to you, we've already got a good service provider, and you said, that's excellent, we seldom see it, I'd be impressed. So I want you to put yourselves in the position, if you were offering up these objections, what would we need to say to you? And you need to tell us, what should we say to you by way of a good response? Now, you may find that you can't get through all of them. But what I would like you to do, if you have been the nominated group leader, is to push the group through as much as possible. So you've got at least something to say on each of these, if possible. Okay. So Sandy, over to you. And if you need more time, we'll give it to you. But over to you, Sandy, to pop people into their groups. So what we wanted to do to save some time, so here's my thinking, is each of you groups have got a spokesman. So I thought what I would do for the purposes of discussion is just take the first one to show you the different dispositions. And then I'm going to ask the team leaders, please will you type up an email to Sandy what the scripted responses were, and then we will email that out to everybody to save a bit of time. But I just want to take the first question around each group because I want to get to summarizing the different approaches to different dispositions, because that's what we've been working up to right the way through today before some of you have to leave. And then if we've got time, we can go back to some of those group spokesmen and cover some of the objections, but then we'll be doing it on borrowed time. So is everyone okay with that? Great. Okay. So I want to start with you, Debbie, because you've got a doctor's appointment. So where are you? Unmute yourself. Okay. So Demi, I want to ask you the first objection that we had. Help me again with what it was.
That it's too expensive.
Okay. So what if I wanted to tackle that with you as S's? What would I say? How would I have to respond to you saying to me, Kath, I'm sorry, it's just too expensive?
Firstly, I would want you to tell me that you sell more than just a product, you sell a service. And I would want you to maybe give me other options that would suit me better and build a relationship with me, a relationship of trust so that I know, okay, great. And explain to me that it's actually value for money. Maybe if it's buying bulk, maybe explain to me that one would cost 10 Rand and 100 would cost me 90 Rand. So ultimately I'm saving.
Okay, so ultimately, let me stop you there. Ultimately, what you're wanting to say to me is that, first of all, I need to reassure you that you are getting a value for money. Yes. I need to set your mind at ease around that one. Then I must come armed with options so that you don't feel cornered because you hate saying no.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I mustn't assume that it's too expensive per se, but I must answer the question and help you understand what's going on there. Okay.
Because we also like avoiding conflict. That could be a way of us getting rid of it, like just saying goodbye. So if you offer something else.
So that's important. So you guys offer that up as a way of getting out of the fight, because you know that most people give up easily when you say it's too expensive. They just go, oh, okay. Right. So naughty, you guys pull it out because you know it's the easiest way to avoid a fight. So the first thing I must do is not assume it's true.
Yeah, not always.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, then the other one you had to leave early was Megan, and she sent me a WhatsApp in the break. Thank you, Demi. To say to me that I must please tell all of you that
I didn't mean you needed to tell everyone.
No, we are because you're hussy. So the ring that she showed is the ring that she's got for now until Slaven can get out of his Croatian lockdown and present her with the real thing, and we'll show you what that looks like on Facebook. I'm teasing. Okay, Megan, so let's have a look. It's too expensive.
I'm blushing, Kathy.
No, you blush. You're about to be a bride. This is awesome. So what do
so we're
I
high
need to say?
C's. So we're high C's, and a good way for you to reply to us would be something like, I know you would have done a lot of research to come to that conclusion, but you might have failed to realize that ... some kind of information that we hadn't realized, or some value proposition that we hadn't weighted properly. Another way to answer would be to say, but price isn't the only consideration, right? Because we would weigh every piece of information to come to our decision, and we tend to weigh price quite highly. And so it would be probably helpful to remind us that there are a lot of other considerations, particularly assurance, knowing what we're getting, knowing that we're going to get good service. Those things would make it worth us not going with the cheapest option.
Okay, so whereas Demi from the S was about reassurance, yours is about certainty. You're wanting certainty. Demi's group, the S is the Labradors, want assurance. You want certainty. You want to be challenged mentally that it's not always all about price. And you want me to give you good reasons why. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go to Leela, the IDs and the DIs. If I tell you it's too expensive, or you tell me it's too expensive, what would we go back to? How would I impress you with a good comeback?
So what would impress us is to ask if you've considered the cost of doing your own advertising, so time and money costs. And then also to maybe say something like, okay, we understand that we're quite expensive, but we actually offer better value, and this is how we offer better value.
Okay, stop there. So can I just say, so the first thing that you were saying is you're challenging me to say what is going to be the cost to me of not having an advertising agency of your caliber. Okay, so you're making it personal. The second one that you're talking about, just say it again. The second one.
Okay, so it's saying, yes, we acknowledge that we are not the cheapest, but we offer exceptional value. And
okay, stop there.
The value.
Stop there. Now, what you guys don't realize is when you say that, the rest of us in the room are flinching because you sound heavily immodest. A better way, more nuanced way of saying that is, yes, Leela, we're not cheap. Why do you think that is? And let me wow you. Don't you wow you, because it comes across as immodest even if you say it nicely. So rather put it into a question form. Questions are your friends, and say, we are definitely expensive, Leela. Can I ask you why you think that is? And then you want me to say, well, you're world class, you've got a track record. Much better me saying it than you saying it.
From them.
Yeah. So watch out that you don't come across as immodest and a bit full of yourself, which is not what you're trying to communicate, but it's how it comes across. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go, Jason. Jason, calling Jason. Hello, Jason. Is Jason in the house? Hello, Jason.
Hello, ladies.
And gents.
All right. So this was an interesting one for us as a group. There was a little bit of internal sort of disagreement, but we kind of aligned.
So, Jason, let's do the first one. It's too expensive.
Yes.
You tell me. How will I wow you with a response?
First of all, how do you measure expense as a business? All right. We're all fairly versatile. How is it possible that we could answer the questions around your business? We want your business, but really the pertinent question to us is, how do you measure expensive? Every business that invests anything in any dynamic tool, there has to be a break-even point, a payoff. How do you actually measure it? It's a very open question.
Okay, stop there, if I may. It's a very good question. And the interesting thing is look at how the D and the C on this information side launches into what sounds like lecture mode. Now, if I tell Jason that's what he's doing, he goes, I'm just explaining myself. But it comes across as lecture mode. So understand that D's and C's, they like to think things aloud in their mind and say stuff out loud. All right. They're not lecturing you, they're listening to themselves. They're mentally ordering their private world. But it sounds to the recipient like, what the hell is Jason on about? He doesn't need to lecture me about this. I run the bloody business. But he's not. Okay. So understand that when they do that, they're not questioning you, they're mentally sounding themselves out. They're just doing it aloud. Right? But that's a very good question to ask the CDs. How do you measure? What's your measurement? How would you define value? Are you confident that we could deliver it? What makes you so? You get him to answer, right?
Yeah,
because you can feel the power. You can feel the power. So don't confuse Jason's D with him lecturing you. He's not ordering his private world, thinking out loud. Am I right, Jason?
Yeah, you are. Dead right. Absolutely dead right.
And often you've been accused of lecturing. I'm bloody sure you have. Stop lecturing. You know, I'm not.
No,
I'm
you're dead
not.
right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. So watch out for that in the others. Other monologues, it would be lecturing. High D's, it's not. Okay. Let's go to Natalie. High S's.
Hello.
Natalie.
Hello. So how is this for us? It would be, how do we sort of put a price on your return of investment? So we're going to want to understand the quality versus being expensive. And we would sort of zone in on what we could offer, not just from a price point of view, but to make the whole experience valuable to...
Stop there. Listen to Natalie's wording. It's about the experience of the sale, the experience of the product, the experience of the service. All right? Jason, it's not, but it's about the experience here. All right? So important when you're trying to persuade people on price, talk about the experience to S's. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. Anything else to add, Natalie?
No, I think we...
Okay. Let's go to Dane. High C's.
Okay, so we had a couple, but I'm going to talk through the three more interesting ones that weren't mentioned before. The first one is, have you considered the cost of inaction, of not purchasing? Why don't we talk through the scenarios, and then get them to explain what might happen if they don't take action. The second one is, assuming what you mean is that you can't afford it in one go or can't afford it now, how much could you afford per month? I'm sure we can come up with a plan, a payment plan, so that you could afford it to spread over time. And the third and last option is, perhaps you don't realize some of the downfalls that we see with our competitors. Can we just explain, why don't I explain to you, or why don't I show you how the cheaper options are often actually not worth the cost because of the hidden costs?
Okay, so the interesting thing there is that Dane is being factual, right? And he's saying the reality is that our competition does sometimes hide stuff, and you need to know that. Don't let them hoodwink you. But because he's saying it matter-of-factly, those of you who are people, you're wincing because he's knocking the competition, right? So you would find that very inelegant. Other C's would be, actually, no, that would be very useful. So just be careful who you're sitting in front of. But the point that he's making there, which is a really good one, is often people offer up, it's too expensive. And what they mean is that they physically can't afford it. If that's the case, then going into a payment plan is a good idea. Could we break it down? Could we do it in stages? If, however, they're saying, I'm not convinced of the value, going to a payment plan isn't going to persuade them. So the first thing up when people offer price is to say, look, I hear you, we're not cheap. Okay, but help me understand what you're saying, Dane. Is it that you physically can't afford what it is we're talking about right now? Or is it that you don't believe there's sufficient value to pay that out right now? Because once you know the clarity around that, then where you go from there makes more sense. Because if I say, look, I can't afford it, it's the end of the financial year. So well, how about in the new year? Or if we make a payment plan, if we stage it? If I say I don't believe there's value, they say, well, let me go back. How do you measure success? Value. And where have I left something on the table which I can underline so that you can have a settled sense that what we do has value? Or would you like to phone some of our existing clients and hear the value we've delivered? Would that help persuade you? Right? But I've defined immediately, is it the cost or is it the value when people bring up the price thing? Very important thing to do, because you can address the wrong problem and then that just pisses everybody off. Thank you, Dane. Right, let's go to Claire, the high eyes. Claire?
I think with us, it was asking us, also the cost of not doing it. And definitely also indicates that you'd need to demonstrate to us more about how you could add more value. Kind of, I don't worry about the money now because I'm going to help you make up the money in terms of the success of the campaign and demonstrate around that.
Okay, stop there a sec. So Claire, one of the things to do for you, if you told me that I was too expensive, I'd have to talk to you and say, Claire, but if we can deliver on the promises that we're making here and the testimonies that you've already done due diligence on, how is that going to make you look?
Yes.
As the business owner?
Yes.
How is that going to impact you and the business which is under your management right now? Think of us as a partner propping you up for executive success. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
okay.
That was my next thing, tapping into how it's going to make
us
look better and save time and yeah. But I think the one thing is we chatted about also was just how you phrase the questions is very important. Because for us, it's a, would you mind if I inquired about that, instead of asking a question like directly. So you're coming at it like, ask your opinion about something rather than like go like attack, because
so wait. So you don't want a direct challenge. You want to be asked your opinion.
Yeah. We want to feel we also would have done our research, and it takes a long time for us to come to a decision on something. So for people to just like disrespect our decision is not cool. So it needs to be done.
Stop there. Listen to the languaging. Claire does not want to be disrespected. Oftentimes, if you're following a script, you can disrespect somebody by not listening to them. So when Claire tells you, look, it's too expensive, take time to say, Claire, help me understand what you're meaning by that. Is it that it's a physical impossibility around the money right now? And if so, I'd love to hear the reason. Or is it simply that I haven't demonstrated sufficient value, in which case, my bad, can I have another stab at it?
Yeah.
Okay, that would work with Claire. Different languaging, all right? Not as direct as somebody else. And what I'm doing is Claire is nobody's fool. High eyes may come across as sort of a bit ditzy and a bit life and soul of the party, but they are nobody's fool, right? And they will not be treated as such. Okay, thanks, Claire. Let's go, Tatiana. High eye, C. How would we handle the you say it's too expensive. How should we handle you?
So the first question that came to mind was that if they ask what could we offer you to make it worth your while. So they're asking us.
A lot of answers to that question.
Well, that would make us very happy.
There we go. Yes. Okay.
But also just demonstrating the value. I think that's a big one. Also, what would it cost? Working us through what it would cost us if we didn't go with the advertising.
So looking at the pain point, how would we demonstrate value? What would demonstrate value for you?
I think also the facts. So reassuring us that you will deliver and that you can do the job. That we
How will I assure you of that? Is it enough just to say it?
Probably testimonials and stories, like giving us tangible examples of where you've helped other companies.
Guys, listen up. Whoever you go and call on, have testimonies in your back pocket on your phone to share. Because every now and then, 60% of the time, you're going to run into someone who's basically asking you to prove what you say. And you then want to be able to say, don't take my word for it. Can I just show you a couple of client testimonies? If you'd like to talk to any one of them, you'd be welcome to. Have them there on your phone, on your website, written down that you could leave with them, right? Because testimony is social proof. And what Tatiana is referring to, she doesn't want to be told you're good. She wants to be shown that you're good. Okay, right. Thank you. Let's go to Bronwyn. CIs.
Okay, so we said you may think that we're expensive, but have you considered what you're actually getting? So have you compared your apples with your apples? Have you done a complete analysis of what you, the second one is, what are the costs of you not using us? And the last one is, we're too expensive. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so to ask good questions in response is very useful to people who are high Cs. And with the I coming through again, don't treat us as idiots, right? But the one thing that you're talking to, which others didn't necessarily emphasize, is to just have a look at what are the other options, to have a look at what maybe you haven't fully considered. But did you hear the I coming through in terms of how Bronwyn phrased it? May I? She was asking permission, along what Claire was saying. Don't just barrel your way in. Okay, important to high I's, that you treat them with dignity and respect. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you leaders to do is, will you please collate the answers from your group? I know it's a bit of PT, but will you collate the answers from your groups on the other questions? And just send them through to Sandy. And then what she will do is she will put that into a document and send it out to everyone who was on the call, so that we can save a bit of time going through it. Would that be okay with everyone? Okay, brilliant. While I'm choking to death here. So thank you, Bronwyn. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to launch into wrapping up. So I'm going to go back into screen share. Hang on a sec. All right. And we're going to go into a couple more videos, 2 more videos. Are you ready? Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Note. Right, the sound. Okay, last bit of fun. So here's something you might like to take a screenshot of. So these are nice cheat sheets looking at the different dispositions. And we'll send you a copy of the slide as well. But it gives a nice overview of the different dispositions and a nice little card to sort of almost learn off by heart. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to take a screenshot of it or to take a picture of it with your phone. And Sandy, if we can just isolate this one and attach it to the email that's going out after this, that would be awesome. Okay, so if you missed it, it will come to you, because I'm very conscious that we need to save some time. So what I want to do is I want to finish off with summarizing some of the rules of engagement when it comes to selling. So let's start with the high Ds. So again, you might want to take screenshots of this, but at the end of the day, you heard the high Ds, Leela and Jason's group, short versions emphasizing results. For Leela's group, it was about the results that concern me. And for Jason's groups, it's about the results that have impact. Confidence matters for Ds. Candid commentary. Do not get too friendly, even if the IDs, DIs are friendly. They don't want you to get too friendly. Get to the point, don't waste their time. Don't take no personally because they've got courage to offer it up. Look them in the eye and arrive on time. Now, when we look at the dispositions, so tick off on your list, Matt Damon, the Martian, high D. Why? He was having the challenge of a lifetime and he saw it as an adventure. Many dispositions would have been absolutely phased to have been stuck on Mars as a botanist. He was finding it challenging and fun in the challenge. He was about getting a result and he took the gauntlet. Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, also a high D. What you saw him there grappling with the truth telling. And the bottom line was that he wasn't afraid to answer the question. He was afraid that Tom Cruise's character couldn't hear the truth. And so he was trying to protect. And eventually what he came out with was the truth. Heidi. No agenda. He wasn't angry with Tom. He was angry with the situation. The CEO in The Accountant, who summarized at the end of the film script that we showed you, what a novel way to introduce yourself. That was a Heidi as well. She got to the point, she grabbed the big picture, and she was able to manage the situation. Tanya from Mamma Mia, have him washed and brought to my tent. Heidi cutting straight through to the fact of the matter. Okay. So when you're selling to a Heidi, there are some of the things that we would recommend that you do, and obviously all the opposite you don't do. Let's go to an I-type person. That was represented by Claire in the more extroverted manner, and it was represented by Demi in the more personable customer service manner. It was represented by Tatiana with a high C coming through, and it was represented as an underlying element of Bronwyn's group. All right? Now, selling to an I-type person, win them over, be their friend. Invest in relationship. Show them that you care about what matters to them, not what matters to you or to it. They're not interested in that. They're interested in how this affects them. Even if they're buying something for their child, even if they're buying something for their spouse, it's about how this will affect them in the eyes of others. A sense of humor always works, but make it smart, not slapstick. Deal in few details, big vision. Assure them it'll be fun. Let them talk. And Claire underlined this, be authentic. They can spot a fake a mile away and they'll call you on it. So when we look at the eyes, double check whether you got these ones. Meryl Streep, Devil Wears Prada. I bet some of you had her down as a high D, but she's not. She's a high I. Why? Look at how beautifully she was dressed. Look at how meanly she got to the real nub of what was going on. And in a very reasonable, calm tone of voice, she let that little PA have it. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't say anything unfriendly, but she was able to zero in and get that point made. Everyone respected her and held her in high esteem and were afraid of her. You could feel the menace underneath the charm and the beautiful wording. And her point, she made it. Absolutely. High I, backed up with a D. Fist in velvet glove. Iron fist, velvet glove. More of the iron fist showing, but never allowing the demeanor to disappear. Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers, IS. Everybody's friend, very informal, straight on to first name terms, in people's faces, different kind of I. It's not the menacing I, the powerful I. It's the ditzy I, the relational I, the clown almost, extroverted. The CFO in The Accountant was an IC. You heard him talking about buddy, you heard him talking about relational, you heard him starting nice, cornered, getting nasty. And he took it very, very personally. All right? Also a mark of a high I. Judi Dench, Skyfall, ID. But different side to the one that Meryl showed. She was compelling, very compelling, in a highly stressful situation. She held her cool, found her words, and was massively compelling in how she delivered them. Adam Sandler in Blended, also a high I, typical high I, jumping into the field, enthusiastically engaging with all the senses to get the kid over the finish line. Senor in Mamma Mia, charm personified, high I. That ability to charm, win people over, get to the heart and soul of people in an instant, almost invasively, high I. Let's go to selling to an S-type person. Now, you heard Demi talking. You've heard Natalie talking. Demi was the S with the I coming through, the people side. Natalie was the S with the C coming through, the task. And they all said, don't pressurize or push or rush me, I'll run. Don't introduce sudden changes. Take time to build rapport and get to know me. Do it over a period. Share testimonies that assure me, reassure me. Value the relationship, not just what's going on here. Give them excellent service and be seen to go the extra mile. They can't help reciprocating and responding to that. So when we look at the S's from the film clips, let's see if you got them all. Robert De Niro, the intern, communicating so much, good listening. Didn't want to hurt Anne Hathaway's character, high S. Okay? Saw and observed, saw what was going on, but was very careful to preserve her relationship, to be kind and not to rush the conversation. Owen Wilson, the wedding crashers, also an S, SC, okay? And what he was doing there was he was low profile, he stepped up, he was able to join in and keep up with Will, but in a more sort of low-key way, but still warm and personable nonetheless. Drew Barrymore in Blended as the mom, praying that her son was going to make it. What about her son? Was willing to make a fool of herself, stay in the back row and let Adam Sandler's character take over, be the supportive mum on the back benches, willing on her child with everything in her. SCI. Rosie in Mamma Mia, high S. You could feel it in the way she was dressed. You could feel it in the way that she engaged. You could feel it in the way she responded to Senor, who was more manipulative in a good way. Mamma Mia, Rosie was more sincere in how she came across. No artifice. What you see is what you get. And then selling to a high C type person. So those were represented by Dane, Megan, Jason with the D coming through, or the D dominating, Bronwyn with the I lurking, Tatiana with the I dominating, but the C still there. Indulge their skepticism. And they are fairly resistant to change, but can be persuaded with as much information as possible. They are the one group that like all the details and the information. But they don't like it reeled off so much as they like to go through it themselves. They like to be reminded of it, and they like it in the form of testimony, social proof. Don't expect a quick decision, not because they can't make a quick decision, they just won't, because that feels irresponsible. Focus on the details and the how-tos, and they want verifiable results. Give them people to talk to. Let them think about it. Encourage them to do their due diligence. Assume that they've done their due diligence. They want the small print, the contract to look over, the website to go to. And when we look at the people who represented high C on our movie clips, Anne Hathaway in The Intern, she was a CI. Okay, so you could hear in the level of the detail. First she was making her coffee, and then it was a mom who was at the school with her daughters. Lots and lots of detail going on in there. And then also a whole lot of reminiscing around the facts, turning it over, looking at informational content. Tom Cruise in A Few Good Men, CD. He wasn't going to be put off his script and what he was trying to get done there. He stuck to the script, to the principle, to the process, to what had to be done, irrespective of what other people thought about him, irrespective of if he was told to shut up. He wasn't overpowering, but he was powerful in the knowledge that he had questions to ask and a point to make. And often people who demonstrate what Tom Cruise demonstrated are mistakenly seen as high D, but they're not, because the only reason he was forceful was because he had prepared. So he had the information at hand. So information at hand makes a high C look like a high D. High C, Tom, was about controlling to an outcome. High D took courage. He was standing there, Jack Nicholson, wondering whether to speak up, and if so, how. Ben Affleck in The Accountant, high C. Almost like a cold fish, dealing in facts and information, not uncaring, but can come across like that or be seen to be like that. Because he stuck to the facts, head down, didn't engage, dealt with the detail, and did not allow himself to be swayed in any way by the impression that he caused, how he was coming across, and what the other people in the room had to say. Stuck to his script. So he's a unadulterated high C. So that was me speeding up so that those of you who needed to go would feel that you would go without missing. So all of those screenshots, Sandy, if you can make sure that those 4 last screenshots go to the teams, and if you can make sure that each of the different actors and what they were goes to people, then you guys can review those little film scripts from the recording and practice learning and recognizing the different characteristics. I hope you found that interesting, because it's easy to categorize people wrongly. I bet you a lot of you thought that Meryl Streep was a high D, for example. Okay, so the thing is that this is here for you because you've got a holiday ahead of you to take some of the stuff and have a look at it and learn as much as you can. And hopefully it was useful. So I'm going to cut it short because a lot of you have said that you wanted to go. Is that right? Or can I continue?
Look, from my side, I do need to go. I've got a 3 o'clock call teed up. But one of the questions
Okay.
I'd love an answer on, and I'd appreciate it if if all of you wouldn't mind just a minute or two of your precious time. I suppose where we're going here in terms of trying to understand the different archetypes is if we're presenting to a board, which has happened to me quite a few times in the 20 years I've been in this industry. Is it I mean, are you empowering us to be literally, if we're sitting in front of 8 to 10 different people in a boardroom, to be adaptable, highly adaptable, to recognize that everyone's a different kind of archetype? Or do we appeal to the strength, the most pronounced of those archetypes in a boardroom meeting and appeal to them?
So the first thing I'm saying, Jason, is do your homework. Remember that irrespective of what people are, when they're in a high-level executive position, they're having to function as a high D. So you are always in a board position, well-placed if you give an executive summary and good positioning of where is the conversation going and what do you want as an outcome of this meeting. I would then crack a few well-timed jokes and make sure you aim it at the fun lovers in the group. Make sure that you drop that in at some point, make it clever, make it smart, be prepared, be on time. I would always tell a few stories rather than just delivering facts. And I would, if I'm talking to a board, I would tend to do it without necessarily a formal presentation because it communicates greater confidence. But I would then have backup documentation for the high Cs in the room. And maybe what you do is you give it to them and ask them to have a look at it while you step out the room. And then if they've got any questions, you can come back to that. But I would certainly position up front that sitting around this table are a number of different decision makers, and you've got different priorities about which you have to throw into how this gets made. So I'm going to deal with an executive summary first, and then I'm going to go into a few client stories so that you can hear the social proof. And then I've got the detail for those of you who need it, and I will go into some of it if time permits. But what we're hoping to is that by the end of the day, there's going to be enough information for a good decision to be made.
Wonderful. Sounds like great advice. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Anyone else got any burning questions that they want to ask in front of the group? Would you all feel shortchanged if we ended now, or would you happily go on your merry little ways?
So, Kath,
yes.
So Jason's question is about doing it to board or to executives. What do you do to teams? So your team meetings, how do you?
So your own team?
Yeah, so your company team, how do you take all the dispositions and sell a new idea to them?
Okay, so the same way that I'm talking about it now is that if it's your own team, get to know who's on the team. All right? And then what I would do is make sure that you address all four. Like Jason is saying, when you've got different dispositions in the room, you've got to be able to do all four. So cut to the nub for the high Ds with good positioning. Here's where we're going. Indulge your colleagues who need a bit more time and give them advance warning. Let them sleep on it. Where the C's are, tell them that they can ask questions. And then ask the people, if you've got what you need, the high Ds, they don't necessarily need to stay for the questions, but if they do have questions, it'll come from the Cs. So I think what you have to do as a team leader is you have to recognize that you've got a number of different people on the team and you've got to play to them. And what I'm doing now is I'm giving you some ideas on how to do it. You'll always have the front runners who get bored and don't want to wait, and the last leggers who need it repeated. So this is where leading is not always easy.
It's in the trying that we achieve. It's in the trying that we achieve.
That's it. Okay, any other questions? Any commentary? So can I just pick on some of you and ask what the number one thing was that you learned? So Risha, can I ask you, what was the number one thing that you learned today?
I think the number one thing that I learned today was that people are different and people change all the time. So with that, you automatically have to change all the time. So you need to be able to be open to developing yourself. You know, I am a high I. So with that, I take it that if I'm gonna meet somebody that's a high D, I need to play to their personality type. If I'm gonna meet with someone that's a high C, I need to play to their personality type. So I kind of need to become developed in every personality type, so to say, in order for a sale or anything basically.
Let me stop you then and say, have you added to your knowledge today?
Very much so. Thank you. I've learned a lot from a lot of people.
Yeah. Johannes, what about you?
I think I've really learned a lot, and how
like
to.
What?
I was thrown into a situation, walked into a cold call meeting, or well, just a product we were discussing, offering the client services, and he was a high D. And in the beginning, nothing I could say. Actually, he was just shutting me down. And now I can more understand what info to give him back immediately.
Great.
So just a better understanding.
Because high Ds can be scary, although they don't mean it.
Yes.
Thank you. Kelly, what about you? What did you learn today? Number one thing.
Hi, Kathy. So I think my job is to normally read people. And I think what I most enjoyed was actually the activity of the clips and trying to just challenge myself to see if I am actually as good as I think I am reading people. And I scored quite well. So
well done.
I enjoyed that.
Good. Well done. Okay. Ashley, how about you? What's the number one thing you learned?
Kathy, I just think how to deal with different personalities, for me, more so in a sales environment. And then also just within my family dynamics, like, you know, I know that it was very much work-based, but also I kept thinking, how can I deal with my teenagers differently and what are their personalities? So yeah, great help. Thank you.
Pleasure. Marguerite, what about you?
Definitely assisting me in selling to different customers, definitely. Yeah.
How?
How to approach them, and also when they come back with an answer, how to approach that individually to each person. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sian, what about you?
I think I actually learned more about myself and how to use my my high C towards in dealing with clients.
Good girl. Yes,
obviously
I do know.
I've learned how to deal with clients more now, but I think I'm going to take what I've learned about myself and use that more.
Good. That's great. What about you, Juanita? Unmute.
Yeah. Sorry. Hi, Kathy. For me, it's just also, I think it's easier to understand the very high ones. It's the nuances of the changes that I struggled with in some of those clips. So that for me, like the really high ones are easy. It's been really helpful to learn the combinations.
Okay. And can you see how practicing with that? I mean, people say to me, gosh, how are you so fluent in DISC? I've been doing it for 30 years. And the practice, it's the 10,000 hour rule. But it's the one thing I would thoroughly recommend to business owners is to get better at people. Just get better at people if you can. Okay. Who else is burning to add their bit? Chelsea, what about you?
And Heidi next.
I mean, I spoke to you not so long ago, but I think the same thing still applies, but also just seeing it in more of a live action kind of, doing the group tasks and then listening to everyone's feedback and actually being able to see it in a real life, situation. It makes it easier to understand everyone's different personalities a lot better.
Okay. All right. And it also takes some of the rub out of it when you realize it's not personal. It's them just being a Rottweiler or them just being a Jack Russell or them just being a poodle. Okay. So it's not personal. People don't get out of bed in the morning and go, right, how can I piss everybody I know off? How can I make sure that I get into fights with everyone I care about? That's not where people are coming from.
Can I just add something there? Can I just add something there? And I just think what a wonderful.
Why am I not surprised? Sandy was mute.
Please.
But yes.
What a wonderful opportunity to spend time with so many people across so many different personality types. I think fundamentally when we're trying to sell, this is one of the greatest tips I've ever had, is that listen. The word listen is an absolute pure anagram of the word silent.
Yeah.
And that if we want to appeal to our clients, we need to do a lot of listening, and I think that transcends all personality types. You need to be doing a needs analysis, understanding what it is that your clients want. That means listening. That means being silent.
Wait. Let me stop you there, Jason, and pull out the number bit because you're going into lecture mode, which I get.
There you go. That's the D in me.
But the others I can see are glazing over. But the point that you've made is absolutely critical, and this is the irritating thing about us Heidi's is that often it's a good point well made. But when you're listening, can I encourage everyone, listen to more than just the words. Listen to the heart. Listen to the non-verbal. Watch what's going on with the posture. Listen to it. Listen to what Tatiana does with her non-verbal language. Listen, because people give you cues. 70% of communication is not what comes out of the mouth. But become good at listening. Become good at questions. Great questions are your absolute key when it comes to sales. And if you can structure those and learn a couple of good questions off by heart, you will be much the better for it. Research before you launch in, even cold calls. Prepare. Don't go in unprepared. When you see a good salesperson in operation, they have prepared the shit out of it.
Kathy, can I add to that?
You can indeed, Dan.
That's the kind of the point I wanted to make, is that I just from the last breakaway group session, I realized that there's so many actually really good ways to respond to each objection, and as long as you're well prepared, you'll be able to pick the right one at the right time. But because there's so many ways, if you don't prepare, you're going to be like, well, I could say this, I could say that, I could say that. Yeah.
So here's my point: you would never go on a hot date without preparing. Think sales. Just Think sales. I cannot think of a more nuanced, sensible comparison. There's a dance to sales and an elegance that is so like dating. There's a preparedness, so like dating. There's a process, so like dating. There's relationship, so like dating. Anyone else? Eleanor, what did you get out of it?
Haley.
Eleanor.
Hello.
What did you get out of today? Number one learning.
That I've been doing it all wrong. Treating people like an I, like me, and not really taking into account that maybe the I's irritate the D's and vice versa. So definitely going to be working on my approach and not less storytelling and waffling and more factual and adding in points and facts.
So let me tell you this, that if you get in with waffling and storytelling and going on and on and on in front of decencies, they will disrespect you immediately. And you are not a person to be disrespected. So just be careful that you don't project yourself wrongly, because when you do, it does not resonate well. When you connect, it resonates really well. Well done. Thank you for that. Eleanor, what about you?
What I've learned today is actually I learned something today.
Good.
To respect people where they're at. Because I used to take it personally, this person just don't understand me. But it's to understand that person. So for me, it's respect and space.
Yeah, so are you guys mentally categorizing which disposition is now getting onto the podium? Right? Because you can hear from the languaging that they use. Listen to the words that people use, and you can start to pick up who have we got here and make some really good, calculated, educated guesses. But I think respect is really important. Irrespective of who the disposition is, in a sales situation, have the respect for someone to let them ask their questions, give them good answers, listen to what they're saying, do your research, arrive prepared. All of that is communicating respect.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got a burning desire to get on the podium and have their say? Apart from Jason, that is.
All the high eyes.
So funny, hey? Anyone want to have a burning thing, or shall we call it a day? And let you get on your merry way, and let Sandy get the typing done up and get this sent over to you. So I trust that you guys got value. I trust that this is going to spark an interest in getting to know people. And if we need to explore it more in your coaching sessions in the new year, I will happily do that, because I just think it's been enormously useful to me in my selling career. So thank you. You've been awesome. And this is me over and out.
Thank you to you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Cheers, guys.
everybody. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yes. Thank you.